What up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Pearl Daily, and welcome to the Just Pearly Things YouTube channel. I missed you guys. One in the chat. If you guys can hear me okay, if we're running up and smooth, all that jazz. Okay, I want to make sure I turn this audio back on, but okay. Okay, so hello. Today, I just got back from a trip to the United States. And when I was in the United States, I went on the Daily Wire show with Michael Knowles. Now, if you guys know anything about me, when I first got into the more of the red pill space, I would say I came in with more of a traditional conservative viewpoint. And some of my viewpoints were actually, I would say, shaped by listening to the Daily Wire when I was younger. It was not the Daily Wire alone. But overall, I've been a fan of their content for years. Ben Shapiro was one of the first guys that I would say red pilled me. You know, I wasn't overly political when I was younger. Um, I believe the first time I could vote, I didn't, and the second time I voted Republican. Now, a lot of the reason I voted Republican the second time around was because I watched the Daily Wire. But what I have seen from the Daily Wire in the last 2 years is a huge blind spot. Just the biggest blind spot that I have ever seen in a company. And I was really nervous going out there because it was almost a surreal moment. It was basically in my eyes telling the Daily Wire about this huge blind spot that I see for them, and debating on marriage in 2024. Now, I would like to remind you that I didn't always have these opinions. I didn't really understand why men didn't want to get married, why the institution was dying. But, you know, I couldn't really hide from the fact that I really, under the age of 40, most people aren't married or haven't been married for that long. The institution in itself is disappearing. And it didn't really matter what my religion was or the way that I thought or what I thought was right. I knew what I was seeing in front of me. And what happened was I came to England and I started interviewing 1,000 women and I started interviewing men after divorce. And it changed my opinion. So today, I actually wanted to make this show for the women that actually want to understand where the men are coming from. You know, this is for the women that actually love men. Maybe you have a father that you want to protect. Maybe you have a brother that you want to protect. But knowing this information will help you protect the men in your lives. And unfortunately, what I noticed is what Michael Knowles is pushing and the Daily Wire is pushing leads men to slaughter in a way. Now, I know this sounds dramatic, okay? And when I first heard this stuff, this sounded really dramatic. I mean, just find a good woman, right? Just find that special woman. So what I gathered from the Michael Knowles debate was that he pushes, and some of the stuff I did talk about in the debate, but I really wanted to make sure that I'm explaining my opinions in depth, because sometimes you might hear a soundbite, you might hear me say something offhand, and you might not understand where it's coming from, why I think this way. And sometimes it's hard to convey this stuff over screen. So he says to get married young, ideally with zero sexual experience with women, no prenup, no DNA test, and no divorce if she lies about, even if she lies about paternity or tries to kill you. No, there is no divorce allowed. And if anything goes wrong in the relationship, you just need to lead better. Now, when I set out to create this platform, what I'm trying to do is create something that is honest. I'm not here to sell you religion. I'm not here to sell you a course. I'm not selling anything. I was just sick of being lied to. I was so tired of the dishonest media. And I would see it on the right, I would see it on the left. And I would just see people not living in reality because they're trying to sell me their religion, they're trying to sell me their political party. And all I wanted was to figure out what was true about the world because everybody seemed to be selling something. Um Now, the second reason that this information is important that it gets out there is because I have brothers. I have 5 brothers. I have a father that I love. One day, I hope I have a son. And I think it's so important that men understand the risk of something before signing up. If men want to get married, I don't have any problem with that. But they should know what they are signing up for. And the problem is, if men understood how serious of a decision they were making and understood exactly what they are signing, many men wouldn't sign up. So they keep trying to miscategorize me as telling men what to do because I think every man should decide for himself. I I think, I am not the one that is going to take the fall when you get married. I am not the one that's going to take the fall when you don't get married. I think that you, as the viewer, should weigh the pros and the cons of a decision yourself. I think you should think for yourself. I don't think you should do what I say. I don't think you should do what Michael Knowles says. And the reason being is I have seen the other side of this. And I personally, Michael Knowles at 33 years old is telling young men to get married, get married, get married. Well, I know what percent of divorces are malicious. I know that men are 9 times more likely to commit suicide after a bad divorce. I have interviewed men that are on the brink of suicide. None of this is about me. And what you'll keep seeing from the right is they keep trying to make it about me. Pearl's telling men what to do. Pearl is single, unmarried, childless, grifter, da da da. None of this is about me. This is about the fathers in this country that do not have access to their children. This is about the children that are growing up without their fathers. This is about the young men that commit suicide because they are horrified at what their wife was doing behind closed doors. This is about the men that go crazy and commit a crime, maybe shoot a judge like someone on the East Coast just did, because they were driven to insanity by the family court system. And what I refuse to do is shame men and say that they are not real men or they're doing the wrong thing by not participating in a system that's set out to destroy them. And until you've actually seen what I've seen, you may not understand it. So I will be honest, regardless of what the people call me, regardless of what they want to say about me. I'm always going to be honest. And men should be aware of what they're signing up for. For example, in California, if you find out you are not the father after the age of 2, when the child is 2, because the laws are written in the best interest of the child, you are still on the hook for child support for life. Don't you think that is important for men to know? Now, oftentimes what I'll hear from the right is do marriage like we do. We have the secret keys to having a successful marriage. On the right are conservatives. But then I look through men on the right. Andrew Klavan, married twice. Dennis Prager, married 3 times. Glenn Beck, married twice. Crowder, divorced. Lauren Southern, single mother. We have very similar results on the right and the left. Then the cope that I have is those aren't real Christians. And then the hosts go into playing God typically. I would look at it like that, deciding who is real and who wasn't. Now, a lot of you guys have asked me, why is this so important to you, Pearl? Why? Why do you care? Why is this so important to you? And there is a story that I've kind of shied away from telling live because the internet can just be a bit harsh, a bit, you know, and sometimes when I give out personal information, the internet's kind of rude with it. They're kind of, but you know, I had when I was 21, I got a phone call, from my mom. And my mom tells me that, my brother had actually tried to commit suicide. And I don't want to go into the details as to why or what happened, but this information can save lives. This information is important. Men need to know what they're trying to get into. On top of that, I had a relative growing up who was denied access to his children for years. I had the sweetest niece. She was the most innocent, like pure child. And he got into a relationship with the wrong chick, and she decided that she was going to, alienate him from his children. And you see this stuff, and I don't know how you could not warn a brother or a father that you love if you genuinely love and want to help men. So how are ways that we can actually help men? What policy changes are there? So the first one, I want to show this clip. Okay, so let me find this clip. 1 second. Okay, could we pull this up, Blessing?
Oh.
There should be. Are we ready? Okay. So this was a clip that they're pushing out. Okay, There should be mandatory DNA testing at birth.
No.
I don't know why you. Okay.
Because it's calling my wife a whore to do that. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Why? Okay. So
because the assumption of first of all, mandatory, good grief. But the premise of it is that my wife is sleeping around.
Okay, so
I'm quite confident my wife is not sleeping around.
The woman feels icky for a little bit, but then
the man feels icky. I would feel quite icky.
Wait. The woman feels icky for a little bit. Fine, maybe the man feels icky.
Certainly he would. You're calling his wife a whore and him a cuckold.
It prevents men from being put on child support and raising kids that aren't theirs.
You're saying they're married.
And if people want to opt out of it, fine. You can opt out.
So it's not mandatory.
But
it's voluntary. But there already is voluntary.
I think it would be better if it was mandatory. I think that's a better.
So then the men can opt out.
Oh my gosh! What are you? So why was I so frustrated by this? Why was I so frustrated? Because I have seen the other side of this, and he's simply waving it off like it's funny. He's simply waving it like, this isn't about me. This isn't about winning a debate. This is about the men that find out after he's invested 7, 8 years into a child, that kid is not his. That's for the daughter that thought that was his father, his or her father. And then at 7, 8 wonders where the dad went. This is not uncommon. We can argue back and forth about how common it is, but mandatory DNA tests protect not only the father, but the child. None of this is funny. None of this is about a debate. These are about real issues that affect fathers and children. Fathers in my lifetime have become a luxury because of some of the policies that are out there. And the only solution conservatives seem to be able to come up with is to shame men for making a logical decision and trying to religion them into it. We can virtue signal on platforms. We can get some good clips, but that doesn't change the fact that this is becoming increasingly not a good deal for men. And men will continue to walk away because of these policies, okay? So, let me get the next one. The next thing they're trying to pin me on.
Is why it's still good to do.
What's the argument for?
What marriage is, why it's
Okay. So, this was after, and I'm not sure, there's like a new trend where they just always call you a liberal or a feminist. Now, I used to say, I actually want to talk about why I have a different opinion on this now. I used to say ban divorce. Okay, that used to be something I said on shows. What made me reconsider this opinion? It is quite funny to say, just ban divorce, it is kind of funny, but this isn't funny. What made me change my opinion is that there are so many men trapped in miserable marriages that on paper did nothing wrong. They don't know. And I don't think it's fair to those men that they stay trapped in these sexless, miserable marriages. I'm going to read you. I get these stories all the time, guys. And I know everyone's going to think, Pearl, you're just making this up. Pearl, they're just selective bias stories. Guys, it's not. There is, it is more common than it is uncommon in 2024. And them trying to sell you on their religion, that their special religion is different, is just dishonest. And I'm not dishonest. I grew up Catholic. Maybe I'm not Catholic enough for them. I don't know. But no, the Catholics are not special. The Protestants are not special. The Orthodox are not special. None of them are stopping this, okay? Dear Pearl, I have watched you for a while now, and I really enjoy your content. I just watched your clip. I was sexless for 7 years and found it mirrored my own story in many ways. I hope that some of the younger men in your audience might be reassured and encouraged by believing in themselves. Even though I'm not a patron, I hope to go on air. I am 53 years old from the UK and wanted to share some of my marriage with you. I have been a Christian my whole life and believe in traditional values. I only ever wanted a woman of the same values and beliefs to share my life with. I never dated or put myself out there. As long as I believed in being chaste, kept my virginity and dignity, and prayed that my future wife would find me. Optimistic, right? I met my wife at church. I was 19 and Anne was 21. She was studying nursing to be a nurse in the NHS, and I was bouncing between dead-end warehouse jobs. We both joined an informal group of a dozen of our young Christian friends at church. I've always been shy and low in confidence with no idea how to talk to women. So found this mix of 20-something people welcoming and easy to deal with. I was friends with her for 4 years before even considering her as a potential partner. During our friendship, we spent a lot of time together at church, on pilgrimage trips, fundraiser events, outreach missions, and spiritual retreats, all within the safety of the friend group. I found Anne to be kind, caring, chaste, generous of spirit, devout in the Christian faith. These were exactly the qualities I was looking for in a woman. So I seriously want you guys to listen to this story. I'm going to keep going and tell me, what was he supposed to do differently? Where did he not lead correctly? I have known Anne for 4 years. When I realized she wanted to change I had known Anne for 4 years when I realized she wanted to change the nature of our relationship. I was nervous and shy. I couldn't ask her out on a date. I wasn't even sure if I wanted to go on a date, never having been on one before. It was just before Anne's 28th birthday when she asked me out. She took me to a motorbike circuit to watch racing. How could I refuse? It was just a first date, right? The date went really well, as I know a lot about motorsport and was able to talk about the drivers and cars with ease. Anne was also a big motorsport fan. We talked and watched the races and then went for a meal after. As we parted that evening, I thanked her for a lovely day, but couldn't bring myself to kiss her goodnight. The next day, I had a terrible head cold. It had rained constantly all day at the racing, and I was ill in bed for 3 weeks. I was so ill, I totally forgot to call Anne. And when I saw Anne again at church, she thought I had dumped her and blanked me. I explained, okay, blah, blah, blah. Basically, Anne wanted a second date very quickly, and she was my girlfriend in an exclusive relationship. We had a lot of fun trips away, nights out, nights in, but no sex. Just to be clear, we were both virgins, Christian and chaste. We both believed in no sex until marriage and only went to first base, kissing, cuddling, clothes on above the waist early. Anne was my first girlfriend, so I was new to all of this. I didn't know what I was missing out on, and I didn't care. I believed I was being honorable and respectful and went home with blue balls every night. I still believe that, but I wouldn't recommend it to anyone else. We had been dating for 1 year, and on Anne's 29th birthday, I was ambushed. Anne demanded to know my intentions. Anne wanted to be married by 30 and start a family as soon as possible. If I wasn't going to propose right away, get engaged, and set the date of the wedding, she would break it off and find someone else. I was shocked, and in truth, I wasn't ready, but I didn't want to lose Anne either. I folded immediately. I was ever a geek with all the hobbies and interests you would expect, a metal drummer too, with black leather and long hair. I came from a pretty dysfunctional family, so I had no idea of a healthy, normal relationship in the absence of strong male role models or a decent best friend. After getting engaged, we went away for a romantic weekend by the sea. Okay, wait. Okay, let me get to the marriage. Okay, so they get married, guys. During the first year of marriage, we had regular sex. Anne wanted to start a family immediately. We both had problems conceiving and needed complex medical treatments to resolve. We spent years trying. I remember the chart. Okay, as soon as Anne got pregnant, this is what I was getting to. Okay. As soon as Anne got pregnant, she lost all interest in me as a person. I felt like I was only a provider and protector. Being an older mother, the pregnancy was difficult for Anne. The birth went really badly and required emergency surgery. It took Anne months to recover. I was happy to allow her to dwell on her femininity and focus on motherhood while we shared the parenting of my son. Anne continued to prioritize my son 100% for the rest of the marriage, and I felt like a lodger who paid all the bills and expenses. After 4 years, I asked if we were ever going to have sex again, which caused a massive row. Is that all you think about? Anne screamed and threw me out of my own house. I knew the birth had been difficult for Anne, with physical and emotional scars to heal. No one ever considered how I felt during that experience. I moved in with my dad and his partner 3 months to consider my options. My parents I knew I had to go back to co-parent my son and to be the man I wasn't, to break this horrible cycle of family dysfunction and become the man I wanted to be. I knew the sacrifice would involve and I would reconcile myself to it. Spending 3 months with my dad, acutely aware of his failures as a parent. The next 20 years of our marriage were sexless. A sexless marriage is defined by having sex 10 times a year or less. Sure, I got some on my birthday and maybe our wedding anniversary, but this felt like pity sex to me. Anne's heart wasn't in it, and it seemed like a chore to her. This only lasted a few years until it stopped when Anne moved out of our marriage bed and into the spare room. This was the ultimate humiliation for me. As Anne had focused so much on our son, so am I. I'm extremely proud to say he's smart, confident, driven, and a handsome young man. He has a solid moral compass, a righteous sense of right and wrong, with a kind and generous heart. He's twice the man I was at his age. He did great in school and is at university with honors in a specialist technical subject. He's a drummer and has a girlfriend. Okay. Do I believe in divorce in that instance? Do you think that's fair? Because I look at that as fraud. The same thing I would say as paternity fraud. And I guess until you've seen what I've seen, you just wouldn't know. That's the best way I could say to describe it. So, does that make me a feminist? Does that make me a liberal? Does that mean, I mean, what else was the man supposed to do? And what they're going to try to do, the tradcons keep trying to convince you this is an outlier. And I don't know how they could when they go on whatever podcast and there's girls with their boobs out and crosses on them. When women are going viral and getting propped up that are ex OnlyFans workers. And they're gonna keep trying to pretend like this is a niche thing. This isn't real. This isn't real. But I don't know how you can. And guys, I had a very similar view. And then I interviewed 1,000 women. I spoke to victims of divorce rape, and I changed my opinion. I am not here to tell you as a man to marry or to not marry. I am saying to go in informed in whatever you want to do. Another cope that I keep seeing is that there are enough good women to go around and that men just need to go to church. And my question to you is then why isn't the reputation of church women amazing? Why aren't more young men going to church? Why aren't we seeing the birth rates rate the birth rates going up? Again, none of this is about me. They keep making it about me. Pearl's a liberal. Pearl's a feminist. Pearl hates women. Pearl's this, Pearl's that, Pearl's that. Guys, why do we keep making it about me when it's about the men? It's about the men that are separated from their children. It's about the men that that live a mile from their children and haven't seen their kids in 2 years. It's about the men that go to court and have to fight tooth and nail to maybe see their kids every other weekend. There are men that figure out the system and get through it. But for every one man that figures it out, there's 10 that gets absolutely wrecked. But all they want me to do is lie. And I refuse to lie because of my religion. I refuse to push men into something that causes men to commit suicide every single year because of my religion. I just won't do it. And if you want to say I'm a feminist, if you want to say I'm immoral for that, I don't really give a shit because I have seen the other side of all this. There is a death in a man's eyes that I cannot explain when when he comes in and it's like his soul is gone. The entire community thinks he's an abuser. He's lost everything. And they want you to sign up anyway with no precautions. I mean, guys, you saw me during that interview. I could not believe he said no prenup. It was, it was mind blowing to me. It was because I just don't know how you couldn't support a prenup with somebody that you love. So what are things that I personally would recommend? Now, some of these may sound extreme to you, but I'll try to make you follow how I got this decision. So the first thing is mandatory DNA testing. Michael Knowles said that his wife's feelings were really important. So I'm gonna take out these. Maybe I could keep them in. I'm gonna write on the whiteboard. Okay. Okay. So we have. Okay. I can put this one up, right? Does this work? I don't think it's working. This is just on my butt. Can you put it up? I don't need the. Okay. So we have. Oh my God, you're killing me, Blessing. All right, thank you. All right, raising a kid that's not yours. Number 2, kid finds out dad isn't their dad. Men that commit suicide over this. And what they're going to do, and this is what I've seen the tradcons do over and over again, they're somehow going to downplay it and act like this isn't common. So we've seen numbers of up to 30%, but let's just pretend it's 1%. 1% of men raising children that aren't theirs. Even if this prevents 1 out of every 100, these things are more important than wife's feelings. Call me crazy. All right, call me a misogynist, call me sexist. But okay. But personally, I think that that's more important. Okay? Even if it's 1 out of 100, and that's what you guys are going to keep seeing. You know, we're going to keep seeing sex workers out in the open, and they'll keep saying, go to church and find a good woman. And you're going to keep seeing more craziness in church, and they'll keep telling you to go there. Children deserve fathers, okay? And men deserve access to their children. And unfortunately, we're in a society that that's not the case. So, mandatory DNA testing. Second thing, prenups. I do not know why you wouldn't tell a man to protect himself. If a man waits until, let's just say, 30, or maybe he gets married at 20, why is the woman entitled to his stuff? We could do a middle ground and say maybe some sort of prenup where the person that files, maybe we bring back fault divorce where if the woman is refusing the husband's sex, he can file. If the woman is, I don't know, cheating on him or the man's cheating, maybe we just keep marriage in the church. Maybe it's not with the state. There's a million ways we can do this. I could come up with a compromise, okay? But I think it's quite foolish to tell young men not to protect themselves. You know, men only get custody 10% of the time. And what you'll often hear is that men are not fighting for their kids. They're just not doing enough. Well, in all actuality, many lawyers are advising that men do not fight for their children because they only have a 10% chance of winning. That's why. Many men can't afford fighting for a child. And the problem you get with a lot of these elitist men, and they're down to earth. I've met them I've met Michael Knowles in person. I don't think any of this is intentional. But the truth of the matter is, those men will have the money for a lawyer. They will have the money for a divorce. Not the average man doesn't have that. None of this is about me. None of this is about your religion. It is about fathers getting access to their children. It is about the divorce laws today. Okay? The next thing that I would like to see happen is taking out all domestic violence proceedings out of civil court. Many of you may not know that in family court, evidence is not required to convict someone of abuse. Now, it's not a criminal record, but it's based on a balance of probabilities, meaning it is more likely that a man did something than didn't do it. Meaning a woman can go cry on a stand, say that she was abused, and if the judge buys her story, if they believe it, the man could be not given access to his children for life, maybe years. This happens all the time. It is not uncommon. So I think that if you are going to accuse a man of abuse, I think you need to go to criminal court. Get a guilty plea. and then come back. But what I see over and over and over again is women going to family court, accusing men of abuse, taking the children, taking the money. This is not fair. This is not fair. And what they keep trying to do is somehow blame the men. They didn't they should have led better. I'm like, have you guys ever been left by a woman for no reason? Women admit to this. I've seen Christian women get on TikTok and say they left their family of 5 years to find themselves. I mean, like, are you guys not seeing this? Are you not? Are you? Am I crazy? Okay. Then taking out domestic abuse. Personally, I would get rid of child support and alimony. I think you got to be accountable for your decisions, but I am open to some middle ground where we at least cap how much they can get. Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it. I had some other ones, but let me see. Okay, let me look at the comments. Now, let me know in the chat. Am I crazy for these opinions? Does this make me a liberal? Am I now a feminist? Am I a feminist for saying, hey, men should be allowed to have standards. Men shouldn't have to enter a contract and enter a system that discriminates against them. Is this immoral? Is this wrong? Okay, so now I am going to, I need to get the link. Okay, Glenn, if you're in the chat, can you give this to, hold on. Let me find this. Hold on. I gotta get it. I'm gonna show you guys one more thing, but in the time being. Now, mind you guys, remember, and even if you date a chick now, I mean, how many women are coming forward and calling men abusers? And all they did was date. All they did was date. And you saw what happened with the Crowder situation. I mean, now Crowder's wife is on record saying that he wasn't abusive. And I have yet to see a retract. I like Candace Owens, right? I like her. This isn't a personal thing, but she was wrong. You know, they leaked private ring footage from years ago and called him an abuser. I mean, that man worked his entire life to become something. Just have a woman, like, but okay. Let me send this to, let me send this to, okay, Glenn, send this to your friend, and then you can come on after him. So, are there any women in the chat? Are there any women in the chat? Again, I don't say get married. I don't say don't get married. I just say objectively, it's a bad deal. Objectively, there is no way that there is no fail safe. And see, this is what they keep saying. Stop pretending that you're not giving advice. I'll give my one piece of advice is a prenup. I do give that. I do say, look, guys, maybe you should get a prenup. But overall, guys, you're responsible for your own lives. I can't tell you if the woman you're with is worthy or not. I don't know. You got to vet her yourself. They said he was verbally abusive. I mean, come on. Should we go through it again? Really? Okay. Let me, you know what? F it. I'm gonna go through this clip again. I'm gonna go through it. Okay. Again, nothing personal to Candace. I just think she was wrong on this one. All right. Could you show my screen? So this was the verbal abuse, and this is the reaction. Okay, from Christians. Okay. Let me.
I drew a boundary. I drew a boundary. No, you just did it. I drew a boundary in abusive and cruel. You were not taking
Okay, so what's happening here? She called him abusive and cruel because she wants to file a divorce. I've seen this a million times. What they do is they go to the women's shelter and they go to a divorce attorney and they tell them to do this. They get with their friends, they start labeling everything as abusive and cruel. Everything, everything, everything. You could be a housewife in to a multi-bajillionaire with a nanny. And now, do you, God damn it. I'm sorry, okay.
Because if you refuse to do wifely things, then I will go pick up the groceries.
There's no groceries. I do have
Steaks, wood pellets, my grill. I know it's not unreasonable, but I'll go do it.
Okay, so he's saying, chick, I mean, you have one job, go get the groceries.
How about you first? Hillary, how do you respect the man? Yes, other than man, other than man, you receive love and respect. No, other than man, no, you're not taking love.
Okay, so the first thing, traditional conservatives should say is respect and listen to your husband. And I'm showing you guys this not to shame them because I don't think most of them are conscious of it. I don't think this is like a conscious thing that goes through their head. I think we've just been so conditioned to always take the woman's side. We never see the other point of view, okay? But that should be the first. Why isn't she listening to her husband? Don't you believe in deferring to your husband's authority? No? Okay.
You're not taking the car.
Stephen,
You are not
then I
taking
will ask someone to pick me up. Would you like me to ask?
right?
It's not correct, Stephen.
So she's saying, I'm not, if I can't take your car, I'm going to go get someone to pick me up or I'm getting an Uber. Why be married? Then go be single.
Uber.
Okay, Stephen, I can't.
Feeling some constraints?
Stephen.
Like, I can't
Stephen.
go. Listen to me. You want to walk out right now? Listen to me. I can't go to the gym. I can't go to my parents. I can't call my friends. I can't be home. You're going to take the car and leave me here. Hillary, just think of how boxed in you've made me.
What do you need me to pick up? I'll get it. I'll be back when I'm back.
No, that doesn't work either. You'll be back when you're back. That doesn't work either. Do you understand the difference between my life being set to the second and you going, I'll be back when I'm back?
Stephen.
And making it work.
Like, really? This is emotional abuse? Truly? Really? Maybe some of you guys were never bullied as kids and it shows. It's like, this is emotional abuse and this is what happens. And I'm so tired of seeing it. I'm so tired of seeing the simping everywhere.
The only way out of it is discipline and respect. It's the only way out of it, and we're at an impasse.
We are at an impasse.
Good. Because you can't have any discipline or respect.
Yeah.
There you
Oh,
go.
there she's doing it again, not listening to her husband. Not a single commentator pointed this out. None of them. They just said, oh, Pearl, you're so mean. Stop bullying these women. Then why would you leak ring footage if I can't comment on it? What the... God, I get so irritated at people that make their relationships public. And then if I say anything, I'm the best. All right.
You give up so easily.
I don't give up, Stephen.
Hillary, you give up so easily. I just said the only way out of this is discipline and respect. You said, then we're at an impasse.
Stephen, no, we are at an impasse, okay? I love you, but Stephen, your abuse is...
So, see, look, now he's mad again because I think he's clued into what she's doing or something because she's saying, you're abuse. What was abusive? I'm just so tired of this soft ass.
Watch it. Watch it.
So he's saying watch it because he's talking about the abuse. Like the abuse language.
Watch it.
I'm going to let go. I'll get what you need me to get. And I need some space. We need to just stop engaging for a little bit. Okay? I love you. I love you very much.
I don't love you. That's the big problem. I've never received love from you. And the fact is when
Okay, so what's he saying? He's saying I've never received love from you. And okay, the reason I'm bringing this up is this happens in conservative communities all the time. The women go around and say abuse. It's crazy.
See me, just be disciplined about it. You go, no, but I love you more than life itself. Okay, put on some gloves. No, but I love you more than life itself. That's not fair. That's not fair, and it's disingenuous. Hillary, you're right then, Pastor. Become someone that's you day in and day out. Worthy.
All he's saying is to listen to me. That's all he's saying. He's saying, chick, listen.
A wife? No, not as a wife. I didn't say as a wife. Hillary, come on now.
I'm not gonna engage. I'm not gonna engage anymore. I'm gonna go. I'll get text me what you need. I'll get you what you need. I love you. I'm committed to you.
Put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to do those things?
I'm not trying to.
Are you committed enough to do those things? You're not committed to anything. You're not committed to anything. You just said I love you. I'm committed to it. Walk the dogs. Put on some gloves. Walk the dogs. Put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to do those things? Are you committed enough to do those things? Are you committed enough to do those things?
I'm gonna
Walk the dogs. Put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to
Like, really? Abuse is being told to walk the dogs? Oh my... Oh. I'm sorry, I get so frustrated, guy. I just don't know how nobody else saw this. And the reason is because I watched Crowder growing up. I used to love watching him. I know how much he loved conservative content. I know how much he just loved, all of that stuff. And you guys all destroyed this man's reputation because you all believe women without a second thought. And that's really frustrating to me. That's really, really frustrating. Go to criminal court, chica. If you want me to believe you, go to criminal court, show them the evidence, and come back. I know what's going on in family court. None of you chicks says this is going to get by me. None of you. All of you chicks that didn't file a police report, sorry, don't believe you. Don't believe you. Go to criminal court. Go to criminal court. And stop calling everything emotional abuse. It's just an argument. Get over it. And so now then this is how women lie. They lie in the craziest way. She'll put as the Crowders head inside, and I showed this on a different live stream. Stephen, angrier and angrier, and by his own admission, screams, "I will F you up," at his pregnant wife, Hillary, who then flees their home. Okay. And then right after, he said, I'll F you up, because she kept calling him abusive. It was something like that. And he was like, oh, sorry. Very different than a threat. Right after, Hillary said, by her own admission, that he wasn't abusive. She said this in court. And nobody's issued a retraction. Yet, we ruined this guy's reputation. And it wasn't just her. It was like Lauren. It was a bunch of them without a second thought. And I was so disappointed as a viewer. Anyways, I get really wired up, riled up about that. But it shows this guy did everything right. He got married. He found a Christian girl in church. What else was he supposed to do? Is the guy on Zoom yet?
Yeah.
Oh, he is. Okay, so now a lot of you guys, I tell these stories and everybody thinks I'm just making them up. Pearl, you're making this stuff up. You're just, none of this is real. I mean, men should just go to church, find a good Christian chick, and just be godlike and lead. And if anything goes wrong in the marriage, they should have just led better. Why didn't you lead better? So today I have a guy who was divorced, and I'm just going to ask him why he didn't lead better. Let's welcome, I have a special guest. Could you bring up how do I do it? I don't know how to do it. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Oh, Pastor Nick. Am I evil for this? Am I just the anti-marriage feminist belief who's down a dark, evil path? Is that me? But let me go to Pastor Nick. Yeah, is he up? Is he ready? Okay. Pastor Nick, just lead better. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
Who is
Just lead better, right?
who else is on
Just
here?
love more. Oh, that's Steve
Oh, okay. Hi, Steve.
Sandman.
Hello. Yeah, you deal with Nick first.
Okay. Is he related to the story too, or no?
We just know each other.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know because I was gonna put him backstage until you were done, but I didn't know if he's
Fine.
in.
Nick and
Okay.
I have similar stories.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll put you on next. Is that all right? Could you put him backstage for a second, Blessing? Okay. Thank you. Okay. So yeah. So why didn't I wanted to see if you could tell the story you told me on the phone the other day, and just I wanted to know it's all your fault. You should have just led better. So I'll just start with that.
You should have led better. You should have loved more. Really, is what they say.
Yeah.
You weren't loving enough. You didn't sacrifice enough. The Ephesians 5 just beat the men over the head with that. You're just not loving enough. You needed to be a servant leader.
Oh yeah. So
So,
so why
yeah,
didn't you
I
love
heard
more?
that. I did whatever I could.
Yeah,
I think it ended up actually furthering the destruction of my marriage.
really.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so okay, so tell them first how you met your wife, your ex-wife, because that's like the first thing they'll say is you just should have vetted better. So where did you meet her?
Okay. I met her online, and she was a Christian woman. She had to pass I gave her a few theological questions that she had to pass, and then I wanted to meet her, and I met her family. Her dad was an elder in the church. She was Presbyterian, Reformed Presbyterian, like I was Reformed Presbyterian. Very conservative, very traditional. That's how we met.
Mhm. Okay.
Um, she was way into me. It was crazy. Like, now that you think about it, yeah. She was way into me at
Okay.
first. So
So what
she wanted to,
I was
sorry, what?
how old was she?
She was 22.
Okay. So 22, church girl. Okay.
Yep.
So then what happened next?
22. Well, she was way into me. She wanted to rush into marriage. It was all too agreeable at first. She said she was a virgin, but there's no evidence of that. Granted, there could be reasons for that. But interesting, a few months into our marriage, this should have been like the huge thing to get out, but I didn't. I found Facebook messages of sexting while we had been engaged with random dudes and ex-boyfriends, and suggesting that she was not, had been doing things. The elder said, you just need to forgive her. You just need to love her and forgive her and move forward. I did. But then it gets worse. Um, she didn't want the sex stopped, pretty much stopped. It was kind of like that, oh, every once in a while, once in
Mhm.
every month or two. And, whenever I try to insist on something to lead the family well, she'd call up the church elders, call up her dad. She'd try to jump up the hierarchy to smash me down.
Mhm.
And so basically, the church leaders would white knight for her for a long time. This even included one of my former mentors. And soon, about the same time, she started beating me. Um, and then it progressed to threats to kill herself with knives and holding a gun to her head. But then she would also beat herself up, hitting things with her head and hands. And then she would call me abusive for trying to stop her from hitting me. Like I'd have to restrain her just to get out of the room.
Mhm.
Um, then I gained weight. So that probably didn't help either.
Mhm.
I tried working through my marriage with others for years. I'd get better. I'd mature. She'd still do the same crap. Then around 2020, she started getting called out by friends and family for her deceit and lies, yet I still protected and believed her. She started losing it with the kids. Family was warning about her, uh, about trying to steal from my grandmother and the inheritance. My friends turned on me when I started a fight against feminism in the church. And I was being attacked as a pastor in the Orthodox Presbyterian Church
Mhm.
for my stances, standing up for my friends and standing against, you know, feminism. Well, my grandmother passed away. The inheritance eventually came in. All of a sudden, she had a privacy screen on her phone. She would hold the phone away from me so I couldn't see it. She would put her phone, face down when she'd go to sleep. Then she started of course, there's virtually no sex during this time, but she would now refuse to even sleep in the same bed or room with me. She would go on trips without me. She would delete her messages. She would always hang up. She would hang up quickly when I sometimes came into the house or the room. And then she was involved with nasty women at women's Bible study groups, which I call gossip groups,
Mm.
with pastors' wives that seemed to despise me.
Wait, so she met a lot of these friends at the women's groups at church.
Oh yeah, the churchly ladies,
Wow.
pastors'
But
wives.
why didn't you watch her friends? I thought you were just supposed to just lead better.
I thought I was doing the right thing. I wanted her to have godly friends.
Yeah. No, you should have just led more. Sorry.
Well, I started to catch on, but it was
Yeah.
too late at that point.
Yeah.
Um,
It's not like you can monitor every conversation she has.
no.
Okay.
And then I got counsel from the church. We started doing counseling. Then she didn't like the counseling we're doing. She admitted to the pastor that we're going to counseling, who's a fellow presbyter in that presbytery in South Dakota. She admitted to beating me. And then probably about a month or two later, the incident happened where I was trying to do the advice that the pastor told us to do, not to have sexual relations, but to be sexually intimate, but not just suggested slowly try to gradually to get back into that. And I made an advance suggesting what the pastor suggested to do. She rejected me. I got pissed. I told her, I'm out of here, get the F out of the car. I drove about an hour and a half away to go fishing. It was too cold. So I didn't have the right equipment to go fishing. This is South Dakota. It's end of November. It's cold. So I'm there. I pray a little bit. I chill out. I come back. I'm calm in my right mind. There's a car. I drive by. There's a car sitting at the house, and the lights are on. And I'm like, what's going on here? I didn't know at the time. Apparently, it wasn't another guy, but found out later. But at that time, I didn't know. But I'm like, this is weird. So I just wait for them to leave. I come in, and she's got this weird smile on her face, and I have alarms going off in my head. So I took the phone as we had an agreement to check each other's phone whenever we wanted. She flipped out on me. She started hitting me, trying to tackle me, the works as she usually did. And I did what I usually did. I got the hell away from her. I ran to the church and locked the doors. Because I don't think she had a key to the church.
Mm.
And while I was running away, she started screaming, help, help, help. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Right.
Apparently, I found out as I was going through her phone that she had been trying to construct a history of abuse, trying to establish a history of abuse with like her pastor friends and some of what I thought were my friends. She was telling them things that were not entirely true or not true at all, twisting the facts. They tried to tell her to get out of, they told her, I'm abusive and you need to leave. Meanwhile, I also found texts where she's trying to get me for like marital rape or grape. Well, probably shouldn't have said that online, but
It's okay. It's all right. It's all right.
where she was basically, I'm assuming it was about me, where she was asking about a rape kit to a friend in like Louisiana, and her friend said, that's not how it works. You consented to this. It's not rape. You can
Okay,
do
do say grape though.
better.
Do say grape. Do say grape when you
Grape,
say the,
grape.
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. So she said you could do better.
Yeah, her friend told her you could do better.
Wow.
Yeah, and so like they were saying that because I was like, why aren't we being intimate? And her friends are saying that I'm being abusive for saying that it's wrong for her to continually refuse sexual intimacy, which she was doing.
Right.
And I was like, okay. So police come in, they invade the church, somehow get in a locked door. I have lasers pointed on my chest. I'm thinking I'm gonna die. I'm thinking they're gonna kill
She
me.
got the police to come to the church?
Yeah, they came into the church. Somehow they got a warrant from the Jezebel judge, the one I defied.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they invaded the church. I had lasers pointed at my chest, and they wanted me to turn my back to them and all this stuff. I wasn't going to do it. I said, no, I'm just staying still. You can do what you need. I'm not moving because I didn't want to. I could be spastic, and I didn't want to make any sudden moves. They had lasers on me. I don't want to turn my back. I don't want to get shot.
Mm-hmm.
So they hauled me off to jail. I get out of jail. I find out the next day that I had $40,000 missing from my inheritance and had been taken from like the day that I wrongly gave her the check to deposit to set up an account in my name. $20,000 about was missing initially. Then like 3 months later, another transaction, and a few months later, it's another transaction transferred to some account that I don't know where it is.
Mhm. Wow. So when did you was there more or did you then I'm guessing you guys started filing for divorce, one of you?
I don't know, like she took the kids over 1,000 miles away to Louisiana while I was in South Dakota.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then I had the whole pending criminal trial, and I was like, I just moved to Texas, and I was working in the oil and gas field, and the lawyer said, I don't think you really want anything to do with my case. He said, look, just plead to disorderly conduct. Nobody really cares about this.
Mhm.
And not thinking I did that because at that point it had been like 5 months since I even like seen or touched my kids. I just wanted it to be over.
And how tell the audience because I don't think you mentioned it, how many kids you had.
I have 7 children.
So you had 7 kids for like what else could you have? You found a girl in church, the same church. You had 7 children with her. You know, you even forgave like cheating at one point at the beginning. It sounded like during the engagement, and you forgave
Mhm.
that. You overlooked that, and now you have a court case for. So she got you on disorderly conduct for running away from her when she was hitting you. Am I
Yeah, what do
understanding
you
it right?
expect? You have women judge. The whole circuit in South Dakota is made up of women judges. You
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
expect to win. I don't think so.
women judges. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so
Plus, I
then
just wanted it to end. I wanted to see my kids.
and then you hadn't. So then at that point, you hadn't seen your kids in 6 months. They were 1,000 miles away, and I'm
And
sure.
it took
And
8 months total to finally see them in person.
wow, and I'm sure she told everyone in the community you were just an abuser.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
oh
Oh yeah.
yeah,
She'd been constructing that before it happened.
I've heard that a lot. I've heard that a lot where they'll the last guy I interviewed with that, they did she did it at school. So because like they're more involved in the community, that's I guess what they'll do because they just have more time, I guess.
Well, well, she had already had contacts with like other leaders in the community there and back home. She was telling them all about me. Some were police officers.
Wow.
One was the chief of the police. One was another couple other head pastors, and
Mm. So
I was deeply screwed.
so then like what's your so then after 8 months you went to court. I'm guess
No, I just had the lawyer represent me.
oh okay,
Oh,
sorry.
I had to go to court again because I purposely violated the order order of the judge, where she said I can't even like. She extended the like do not contact because I wanted to like.
Hmm.
She extended the do not contact, so I still couldn't see my kids basically. And then she still said I couldn't have like any alcohol. I'm like, wait, I'm a minister of the Lord Jesus Christ. The sacraments are bread and wine, and I'm going to do that.
Mhm.
I don't care what you say. I'm going to take it, and if I need to, I'm going to serve it. And you know, they do not have the rights to usurp the crown rights of the Lord Jesus Christ. So that's the Presbyterian in me. We were very defiant about those things. So I purposely defied the order of the judge in an email to several ministers.
Mhm.
I got 2 weeks in jail for that.
You went 2 weeks in jail for
Oh
serving.
yeah, I reached 30
Wow.
people. It was good. Yeah.
No, that's actually so she there but that's the thing, they try to take your livelihood. It's like you obviously loved being a minister. And so
Oh yeah, I
that's
demitted the ministry in September. So
you what?
I'm no longer a minister. I'm no longer a minister, but I still help people. So
Oh wow. How has this affected has it affected your faith at all?
I almost became an atheist a few months ago.
Yeah, I could imagine. Especially when you're going to church leaders and then like that's the response they're getting.
Man, the ones that you think that your friends, they're the ones telling you you're in sin. You did wrong. You need to move to Louisiana, be close to her and your kids. I'm like, and all my family's like saying, do not do that. She will throw you in jail again.
Wow. So when's the last time you've seen your kids now?
So I now am able to get them one weekend a month. So I saw them last weekend.
Wow. How old's your oldest?
She's 10.
Does she have any like inkling that the mom's crazy? From what I've seen, they kind of figure it out around like 12, maybe, that the mom's kind of nuts.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think the younger one sees it, but unfortunately, I think the younger daughter, so that's the second oldest one,
Mm.
she's unfortunately I start seeing the same crazy behavior in her lately. So
Um. So I guess were there any like red flags? And just because there's younger guys watching this, like what do you think there was anything you could have did to prevent the situation in hindsight? Or like,
I wish I had the knowledge
yeah,
that I have now. I wish I read Rich Cooper's and Rollo Tomasi's book before I got married.
yeah.
I would have prevented a lot of this stuff. I would have never gotten with this woman. It could have prevented a lot of things, but sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and you learn the hard way.
How much money did you lose total?
The inheritance, I'm still trying to figure that out in court. So that's 40, and I'm still going through the process. So it's been over a year now. I've probably spent with all the different lawyers and everything, probably another, I'd say 40,000.
Wow, it's almost 100K. I mean, guys, to put that in context, the average person makes like 45K a year. That's like 2 years' salary. So,
Yeah.
um, well, thank you for coming on and telling your story. Is there any other part that we missed that's like important or anything you want to say to like the guys watching?
Vet your women carefully. Don't rush.
Okay, we're gonna do the religion part later, but I'm gonna bring on the next guy. Um, but thank
Sure.
you,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Someone said I went to spend 200K. I'm sorry, what was your name? I can't hear him. It might be us though. Let me see.
Can you
So
unmute your mic?
everyone keeps saying that because he's in good.
Okay, you can hear me now.
Yeah, 1 second. I'm going to say one thing and then I'm going to let you go. So everyone keeps saying that because he's in good spirits, or he's like, I keep seeing things in the chat that he's lying, that what are we? Sorry, I'm reading random stuff. Okay. People keep saying that he's lying in the chat because he has it written down. Guys, sometimes these court cases take years and there's so many details to these stories that you have to kind of pick, what stuff you're even going to talk about. Because generally, when I talk to guys, there's so much we would be here all day. But yeah, yeah. So just because he's smiling, that doesn't mean he's not. Anyways, so I'm sorry. What was your name again?
Steve Sandman.
Steve, was it?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Steve. Welcome to the show. So,
Thanks.
I'm sorry, I'm not overly familiar with your story. So, are you involved in the church too?
No, I'm just a guy. I was trained as a mechanical engineer, worked in that. Now I'm a truck driver. I've been twice divorced. Both times were really involved.
Okay.
So I was accused twice of having bad inclinations towards daughters.
Oh, shit.
Never accused of doing anything, but bad inclinations.
Oh, so what happened?
Well, can we limit it to the second round?
That's fine. So, what happened?
I got divorced the first time. It was horrendous. And lost touch with my two adopted daughters, and I haven't seen them for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in their 20s now, but they've kind of bought the narrative, and they have to get along.
Mm-hmm.
So the second time around, I was involved early on in the manosphere and the red pill world some of the early blogs back around 2009, 2010. And I married one of the women who was active on there. Vetted her pretty well. She had just become Catholic. And we talked about a lot of the serious things. She was from Canada. So she immigrated here. And even though we thought, we both believed the state marriage wasn't perfect, I had to do it so she could stay in the US. And it worked pretty well. Happily married since it was my second marriage and her second marriage. And we were Catholic. At one point, she said, well, let's have this brother sister type marriage without sexual relations. Okay, because we were going to go through annulment, and that took more time and effort than it didn't happen immediately. Mm. And so things kind of dissolved from there, but even though we still got along good and never argued, then all of a sudden, she wanted separation and divorce. And I think it was due to past guilt over, and I put guilt in three areas: sexual partners, reproductive guilt, which is abortion, or maybe things you did during pregnancy, and possibly a child with someone other than your previous husband. Those are the three things that women lie about. So anyway, we went through a divorce. Once she filed, didn't want any talk, didn't want any discussions with the priest to try and resolve things, which I really wanted to do. Eventually, she was lying about things. I went back into marital home, which was under her name. And I was eventually charged with felony burglary for that. And I eventually pled it down to trespassing. But the point was, by the law, doesn't matter whose name the house is in, it's marital property until decided otherwise. So I trespassed in my own house. Well, it was under her name, but I paid all the taxes and everything. So she had two daughters, and I think it resolves around issues there. And you know what? Before we go any further, I choose not to hate her. Because that's poison. That just poisons myself. Mm-hmm. And so I don't want that.
Mm-hmm. So when did she accuse you of, I forgot the exact term you used, but something with the daughter?
Well, when we first started getting together, at the time she accused me of talking to her 9-year-old daughter about grape. 9 years ago at the time.
Wow.
And it was absurd. It didn't even make sense. She went to talk to a priest. The priest reported me to the authorities. Nobody ever investigated. The priest never told me about it. I found out later. I wrote to the bishop saying, hey, I'd like an investigation here. What happens? He referred it to the head pastor, the head priest of the parish, and then nothing happened from there. So then it went through court, and there are no Catholic women in divorce court. Let me tell you that.
I've seen it. No, there's no. So Catholics are not special. Catholics are, because Michael Knowles is Catholic. He was saying, find you a special Catholic woman.
Yeah, right. Hey, remember, Eve was without sin when God created her for Adam. Right. Well, it was a man and woman at that time, but yet she rebelled.
Right.
Is the problem with women hypergamy, or is it rebellion?
So how much did you end up spending in the divorce? And did you guys have your own kids together or no?
No.
So, you said when women lie, it's about, you said abortion, sexual partners, and one other thing?
Uh, Possibly a child with someone other than the previous husband.
Okay. So, and you said she had guilt from that?
Well, she had a child born premature. She uh, was poor at the time, born in California, premature, probably cost the state of California $1 million. When she went in, they wanted to do a blood test. She
Mhm,
refused that and said, "Well, they wanted to do a blood test to see if there was drugs in my system."
mhm,
Well, they didn't find any drugs because they didn't do a drug test.
right.
And so, okay, that was her excuse. So, do I know that anything happened? No. You have to kind of read the tea leaves when it comes to women. I believe she was honest with me about her sexual past,
Mhm,
but women carry, these things causes guilt. And why do women make false rape claims? Well, it's guilt, so they don't have to take responsibility.
mhm.
Is it just limited to those bad women, or do, is it possible that with the history of women these days who have a past, there are hidden baggage?
What would you recommend to young guys that want to avoid that kind of situation? Is there any way to
Well,
prevent it?
uh, let me see. I made 3 comments because I watched your interview with Michael Knowles. Yeah, find a woman. Okay, they always say find a religious woman. Find a woman in church. Well, okay, that's kind of good. But more importantly, find a woman that can be led.
Mm,
So that's my first thing. And then figure out that there could be these sexual or this hidden baggage. And guilt can really drive a woman to do things because she doesn't want to be accountable. She has shame. What would happen if someone found out in the church atmosphere or whatever?
mm,
That's why sometimes religious or even Catholic women could be worse because they need an excuse to say
right.
man bad. Um, and then your idea of a prenuptial agreement,
Mm,
and Michael Knowles said no prenup. Well, let's find a common ground. Prenup is viewed as what happens in the event of a divorce.
mhm,
How about you sign a nuptial agreement, which defines traditional marriage as to what the man does and what the woman does, and then what the repercussions are in a divorce. But it's not a prenup, it's just affirmation of a nuptial agreement that counters the civil law. And really, why does the Catholic Church let the state be a gatekeeper to the sacrament of marriage?
I think they get money or some sort of kickback. That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Oh, it's simpler than that. They want to be good Americans because Catholics were persecuted or discriminated against. Let's
Mhm,
not say persecuted, discriminated against. So they want to be good Americans. So they want to be a law abiding. And that's what the bishops went with. And
mhm,
so they have allowed the state, you have to get a marriage license to get the sacrament of marriage. Therefore, the state is a gatekeeper to a sacrament. Now, I know not all Christians believe it's a sacrament, but still, the state is a gatekeeper.
mhm. Yeah. No, I agree with you. Uh, so how did that whole situation like affect your life? Like how long did that whole process take? How did it affect your reputation? Like what happened?
Well, the second marriage It took a couple years.
Okay.
I don't know. I probably spent $40,000.
Wow.
She got an unequal distribution, but hey, I didn't get any spousal support or any child support for the second time around,
Mm.
and now I get to keep my money,
Yeah.
and I'm doing pretty well.
Okay. That's good
Hey,
to hear.
life is not about making a lot of money. Sometimes life is about adventures,
Yeah.
and we never learn things until it's too hard not to learn.
Well, thank you for calling in and telling your story.
Thanks.
Is there someone else in the waiting room, Blessing, or no?
We have Glenn in the waiting room.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can bring up Glenn. Um,
Thanks, bro.
Hello, Glenn. Glenn, you've been like on everything lately, everywhere and everything.
Yeah, kind of been all over the place, haven't I?
So tell them about how you could have led better
Oh man, like
in your
only
marriage.
if, only if I was just a better servant leader. Like only if like I could just like do the like use my leadership ability to serve my ex-wife and her cheating ways better. Like if I would have just said, you know what, babe, I get it. I would cheat on me too, and you were right for doing so.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Like that's basically what they want you to do. You
Mm.
know, um, I have several clips from the video of you and Michael Knowles
We can.
that
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
like, really just really chaps my, hide here because he talks about things as if they are not realistic. Like divorce was not realistic. One, God divorced Israel for their ways.
Mm.
Like he didn't want to acknowledge that during the debate. I want you to know that because I brought that up to him during the show.
Mm.
It's like this saying that divorce is not acceptable. No, it's God doesn't like it, but you know what? Men were able to serve their wife letters of divorce. It wasn't the other way around,
Mm.
back in the day. And there was a standard. How can men lead? It said, how does men could lead be better? That's what Michael Knowles says. Just
Mhm.
lead better, be a better leader. Well, in order to lead, you have to have authority. In order to lead, you have to have respect and the position and the capability of those underneath you for them to follow you or they face consequence.
Right.
But today, marriage is a joke. It's sad because I believe in marriage, but as you said, I can't support the way that we do marriage today. One, it's not even biblical. I don't even know why Michael Knowles would even assume that today's way that we do marriage is biblical.
No, and that's why I was getting a bit frustrated because I sometimes feel like when I talk to tradcons, they're in la la land. And I don't know, I don't think it's intentional. I go into things in good faith. I assume that this is just because it goes against like an ego belief or it's just like, they're really into their religion or whatever. But I just was questioning how could you go on whatever podcast and just even in Nashville, I mean, we were interviewing girls downtown. I'm like, uh, are you guys blind? Like you don't see this? And even that he admitted he knows people that have been divorced and gone through really messy divorces. And I just question how they don't, I had a different opinion when I started this whole thing. I didn't understand why men were so anti-marriage, but I'm not blind, you know? Um,
It's sad that like most of the time he kept on saying that, well, the reason why women are the way women are is because you can't blame women for their sins. No, part of it's society's fault. It's the teacher's fault. It's the culture's fault. And it's like, hey, do you give men that same pass or is it just for women?
mm,
Because I don't ever hear him saying, men get a pass for the way they are because society and culture taught them.
okay. No, that's true. So, question, do you wanna go through your story first of, like, what happened to
Yeah.
you? And then, I don't know if were the clips, would they be helpful to your story, or is that more for when we go through the religious stuff?
Oh, that's when we decided to go through everything. I just
Okay.
prepped them all.
Okay, great. So
Um,
first, I think I want you to tell them the story of your divorce.
mhm.
Tell them what happened. Tell them about the divorce, how much you spent, and your relationship with your kids. And then we'll go through the other. We can bring them back on, right, for the other part.
Yeah,
Good. Okay.
yeah. Um, so I was married for 13 years. Well, 14 years total. Um, I met my wife, my ex-wife at church. Now, mind you, I did come in hungover. I was at the bar the night before with my buddies, and we were tore up. And like I was hungover, and all I remember the pastor saying was something about temptation. And then she walked by, and then remember that thing I told you I jumped into it. I
Yeah.
wasn't lying. Um,
Mm.
so we got together. Things seemed to be going good in the beginning, and then things started changing. Like she had a son, so I was the stepdad. I did that whole role. Like I was that blue pilled.
Mhm.
And when I realized like there was a lot of problems with this, with the stepchild and the ex-husband and all these dynamics, it played a real negative effect on our household. And I'm just trying to get some guidance here, some stability. And there was a lot of undermining, a lot of, just going behind my back type of stuff. And that caused a lot of problems. That causes some distance, which when I got out of the military, she decided she wanted to go into the military. So she joined the Navy, and I didn't really think anything of it back then. Now I would tell anybody that don't marry any woman in the Navy because all of them I heard they become boat hoes. They go out to deployment, and the next thing you know, they got a ship husband, and
Mhm.
they got a whole bunch of ship dick all over the place because there are few women on the ship.
Mhm.
And so she had 3 affairs. And I found out about all 3 affairs when I found out about the last one.
Oh.
And the whole time she was telling our pastor that she thought I was having an affair. And so my pastor, who I was working underneath, I was um the acting associate pastor, but mainly just my role was the youth pastor.
Mhm.
And I would fill in for him when he was gone. So I was really the only one who would preach besides him.
Mm.
So when he told me I needed to step down, to take care of some personal matters, I then tell him about her affairs. And then I don't know, I can't deal with this.
Mm.
And he's like, well, you need to forgive her. And he ends up referencing the story of Hosea in the Bible. Now, Hosea, is a story about this guy that God told him to marry a prostitute who ended up cheating on him multiple times and that he took her back over and over again. It's symbolic to represent how God forgives us and takes us back all the times we sin, right? And I was like, I can't do that. So they made me step down from pastoral ministries as a youth pastor. But they put the cheating wife in my place. So they rewarded her. They had her
What?
yeah.
Okay.
So that was when I left the church, and then I filed. And what she did was she had me detained, and then had a restraining order since I had a fine. I have guns. I have lots of guns. And
Mm.
since I had a gun, I was cleaning a gun on the table when the police came in, and my son was in his room.
Mhm.
Um, they said my gun was it was open, and it was within reach of a child, not locked. Well, I was like, yeah, it's not locked because I'm cleaning it, and the reason why it's still on the table is because I haven't put it up, and you guys have me in handcuffs. So it's not me doing child endangerment; it's you doing child
Right.
endangerment. So they put a child endangerment clause on me, and I had to wait like so many months to get that cleared off. And
Mhm.
once they finally cleared that off, it was like 4 or 5 months later, and I haven't seen my son. And then by that time, she already poison the well, which I think she was already doing prior to.
Right.
And even to this day, like I love my son, but unfortunately, me and my son have not yet had a conversation because parental alienation. Um, I did pay a lot of money for a good lawyer to fight the case. We were able to prove parental alienation, which is something really hard to do.
Mm.
And but still, it's like I don't care that I won that case. I lost my son in the process. My son now is 16 years old, and he's in that very, you know, very important time in his life where a strong father figure role is what he needs, but he doesn't have that. When he was living with me, he had straight A's. He was actually captain of his football team. He was doing great in jujitsu. Now he won the presidential award at his school. Now he's failing classes, barely going to school. Just a mess. And you report this all the time, where it's like children raised under their father do way better
Mm-hmm.
than children raised in their mother. And I personally have evidence of that. But it's sad because at this point, all I could do is just wait for when he's of age and he comes around. And there's no support from the church.
What's it like having how many years has it been since you've seen your son?
3 years.
3 years.
Mhm.
What's it like not being able to watch like what he's doing and almost protect him?
Um, it's a nightmare. So mind you, like until the divorce, I've never been away from him.
Wow.
Um, my ex was the one that would get deployed because I was already out of the military. So she would go out to deployment, 9 months here, 9 months there, 11 months here, I mean, so it was always dad. Dad had everything. I was his hero. Like everything was dad. It's funny because he would write his stories in his, class in his first grade, and his stories always had my dad. So it'd be like, my friend runs fast, my friend runs fast, my dad runs faster. It's like everything was my dad. So it's like I hate the holiday season because I used to love the holiday season because we used to do all these stupid things. We used to go down to Seattle to get our coffee when we lived out there, and we'll get our hot chocolate right there by the first Starbucks. And then we would do all these little things. We would walk to the children's museum, and then we would just do all these little ventures that I would do with him, go camping, just boy stuff. And every time the holidays come around, I just go, I don't celebrate them. There's no point. Because when I think about them, I think about my time with my son and the time that I'm now being robbed of.
That's what I find in these interviews is that the money is very much secondary. The hardest part is losing time with your children that you won't get back. How do you you have such a positive attitude, just like knowing you personally. How do you keep such a positive attitude when you haven't seen your children in 3 years?
Um, there's a scripture, and Paul writes, I could do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And it's no, I'm not going to lift 1,000 pounds because I want to. That's not what it means. But it means that I'm content in all situations, no matter what I'm going through. It's not my strength that I get through it. It's God's. Somehow God gives me the strength to endure and to push on. And whether my son watches these videos or he watches my stuff or watches your stuff and sees me on here, he knows I'm always talking about him. He knows that I miss him. He knows that I want to be in his life, and that's hope. There's hope there.
Hmm.
Eventually, there will come a time, because I've been through this myself. Like my mom kept me from my dad. I've lived this. I already lived this once as a child. So I know what it's like. And I remember when I finally came to my dad and I had that heart to heart conversation with him and learned the truth. I was like, okay. And me and my dad are best friends. I talk to my dad every single day. Like, me and my dad go to the gym. I don't even talk to my mom.
Mm.
You don't want to talk to the devil anyways.
Jesse Lee Peterson says the devil's in all women, that we all have evil in us.
You might not get this joke. You may
Yeah.
not get this joke, but in like 64, I think Steve will probably get this because he's old as hell. But like in 1964, there was this horror movie called Rosemary's Baby,
Mhm.
right? And it was about like the Antichrist, right? Being born. Well, my grandmother's name was Rosemary. So my mom is the Antichrist. I swear to you. I kid you not.
No, and this is what frustrates me with the trad cons. I think there was parts in that interview where people just said like, Pearl, you keep interrupting or you're getting frustrated, and I get it. I totally was, but it's because they have no idea how dangerous what they're pushing is. Telling a young man to get married young with no prenup, no sexual experience with women, or no experience really with women because you're young, um, no precautions, no DNA test. That's dangerous. Oh, that is so,
Well, like
because
my
I've seen, like, I mean, I've interviewed so many men on the other side, and I see so many, like, uh, I've interviewed a guy in pretty much every situation. I've interviewed men that got a Eastern European chick. I interviewed men that got a Japanese chick. I've interviewed men that got a homeschooled chick. I've interviewed men that married Catholic women, virgin women, Christian women, whores, single mother. Like, I have seen it all. And they all think I'm just being a doomer, but I'm just like, guys, you are downplaying how serious this is. And that's where
yeah.
I get frustrated sometimes.
Well, it's like they don't realize it until they're in that position.
Yeah.
That's the sad thing. Because I was the same way. I remember sitting there with the pastor when like observing counseling for couples, because we always had somebody sit in with them. And I'm thinking, like, yeah, what the hell's wrong with this guy? Why does he just do it right? Like it can't be his wife. His wife can't be the problem. He has to be the problem. It's almost like we're programmed this.
Mm.
And until you are actually put in that position, you're like, well, wait a minute, guys. I swear, I'm not the one that's guilty here, you know. But like I told you, and I think I said this when we were over at Jason Whitlock's studio. There's a difference between responsibility and fault.
Mm.
As men, we always will have the responsibility to act, but we're not always at fault.
What's the difference?
Well, it's responsibility is like if your wife cheats on you, you have the responsibility to make a decision,
Mm.
right? And you have to ask yourself, one, if you choose to stay with her, can you forgive her? Can you still look at her the same way as you did before?
Mhm.
If you can't, and you know you can't, then staying in that relationship is probably going to do more damage in the long run to your children and to her. And if you have any amount of love for her, maybe knowing that your heart is as hard as it is towards her, maybe you're doing better off just ending that relationship because of the affair
Right.
instead of trying to force it to work, instead of trying to force it to, to stick it out for the kids.
Mm.
Because if you want your children to see what two loving parents is, sometimes making that loving sacrifice is, knowing when to let it go when there's something that egregious like infidelity,
Mm.
knowing that you're never going to be able to trust that person again. Now you're teaching your children to have these trust issues and, to harbor this resentment towards their mother or their father. And I don't think that's probably the best thing that we should do.
Right. So what clips did you see someone just asked your opinion on Crowder? Did you agree with my analysis of that or no? Did you see it?
Oh yeah, I did. I
Okay.
did. I did agree with it.
I was so disappointed in the I've just never been so disappointed as a viewer. I just was like,
Yeah.
how did none of you catch that? But whatever. Okay, let's bring up the other guys, and then what's the first clip that you want? I can pull it up on my laptop. Or Blessing, do you have
Oh,
to pull?
I
Go. Sorry, go ahead.
I already cut them, but I can give you the timestamps. You want the
Yeah,
timestamps?
just give me the Blessing. Do you want me to pull it up on my laptop, or is it better for you to do it?
Now you can do it on your laptop.
Okay, my laptop. Yeah, that's fine. So I'll go to your thoughts exactly. Yes, yes. And guys, it's okay. As reporters, we are bound to get some stuff wrong. Okay, it's just going to happen. But the fact that it's been like 10 months, no retraction, it just is mind-blowing to me. Get over it. No, I won't. I used to love watching both of them. Okay, let me go.
So the first one is
All right,
we'll start in the beginning. 12 minutes and 56 seconds in.
Okay, let me.
Which is, I actually wanted to cut
That
to
is not the right one. I accidentally put on pressure. Okay. Okay, 12 minutes in.
12 minutes and 56 seconds in.
Wait, so
Okay. And you can bring on, oh, the other guys are back. Okay, great. All right, 12 minutes.
you are telling men at the very
Okay. All right, I'm at 12:55.
Cool.
Okay, we're gonna until what timestamp do you want me to end it at?
15:02.
At 15:02. Okay, I'm gonna play it. You guys are gonna go off the screen and then you'll come back. Okay.
least, you're observing that it is not advisable today in 2024 to get married.
I would say that every man has to pick for himself. But I think objectively, if me and you sign a contract and one of us is paid to leave, you would never sign that business deal. You would never sign it.
I did, right. If you're saying that's the state of marriage now, I did get married, therefore I did sign it.
Okay, well, congratulations, but I think a lot of men are going to be hesitant to do that.
And you're saying it's rational for them to be hesitant.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's advisable,
No, not advisable.
But rational.
Every man, like, okay, I'll give you an example. I'm not here. I think men have had enough of women telling them what to do. I'm not telling men to do anything. But I think your situation is going to be completely different than the average Joe making $45,000 a year. If your marriage goes south, you have the money to afford lawyers.
I have the money, but I'm going to lose half money.
What?
One of the.
But do you think you're in the same position as the average man making $45,000 a year? The answer is no.
No, but I don't.
The answer is no.
I don't think it's because of my money, though. You know what I think it's because, well, look, when I got married, I didn't have a lot of money, but now I have more money. But I think there's a bigger distinction.
I'm getting annoyed. You know what I'm saying? Why are you pretending you don't? Sorry, I'm done.
Which is, I am of a religious view and practice that does not recognize the reality of divorce. Not only do we discourage it, not you know, I'm a mackerel snapping papist, a member of the Catholic faith.
I'm Catholic too.
You're Catholic also.
I'm also Catholic.
So, marvelous news.
Yeah, yeah.
We do not.
And Catholics are not immune to divorce. I have seen it. I've seen people getting married for the second time. They still get communion, and the number of annulments is going up.
That's not licit.
The number, but
that's
they
a grave
do. But that's the no. But I know. But it doesn't matter because it happens all the time.
But you can.
And
so
it totally.
I see someone who calls himself.
We have a record number of annulments this year in the Catholic Church. You cannot. The Catholic Church is getting more. You see the Pope, and I think we could agree on this stuff.
The Pope for you know, all of the liberal statements that have appeared in the press under his name. The Pope is generally pretty good on matters of sex and marriage. He's pretty clear. When you say, you know, Catholics get divorced, it has happened. There's a distinction between an annulment.
It's around, I looked it up before this, it's around 25, 35.
That's how, yeah.
It's around, it's around 35%. And so that's not a small percentage.
What's the national average? Like 45% roughly? So.
Well, 2024, it was 50.
Have we gone past?
So I know everyone.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said to 1555. Was that right?
1502.
Oh shit. Sorry. There you go.
No worries. So, what I was trying to get at with that is that, like, he tried to say, like, well, the difference between him and it's not the money. It was
he's more godly.
You know, his faith. Yeah, it's his faith. And that's great. Like, yes, prayer changes God could do amazing things. We know that's true. Okay. Like literally, it's true. God, we know, you know what? Out of all the people in the world, you and I have connected and we became friends and we have worked together. Is that by mere coincidence or could God have divine intervention that whole ordeal? Who knows? I would like to think that it's a blessing, that our paths crossed and we became friends and worked together so well. That's a blessing. That could have been from God. So it's like to say that we don't, like I met Nick and Steve. They're part of my group. Like that could be a blessing from God. To say that like God may not have had his hand in it, it would be silly. So to say that God, prayer can't change things and that God cannot do things that would be ridiculous. But that doesn't necessarily mean you could pray against someone else's will. So if Nick's will is not to do what he's ought to do, regardless if I'm praying for him to do what he ought to do, that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen.
Yeah. And that's what I was trying to say. I'm like, have you never had a woman leave you? I'm like, you cannot just say anything. We are not rational. I'm like, we'll make up. I see girls on TikTok saying they want to leave because I don't know, they want to find themselves. What the fuck does that mean? Sorry, potty mouth. But it's like, I'm like, it's not a rational thing. It's not like the women are really considering God when they're breaking up their family, but
yeah,
I'm just a feminist, so I guess.
I had an elder in the church. So I had an elder in the church when they first started learning that I was having issues with my ex. And he noted how, like, before they had dealt with this, it's like no matter what they do, if a woman gets it in her mind to leave, there's almost nothing they can do to stop it.
Yeah, I agree with
and
that.
Unfortunately, that was correct. So,
so the next clip I wanted to go to, Pearl.
Hey, can I interrupt here?
Oh yeah, go
ahead, Steve.
I wanted to point out what I think Michael Knowles' big blind spot is.
Oh,
because it was my blind spot. And okay, he believes that reason, logic, and discipline govern both men and women. And Pearl pointed this out. The reality is that women act and decide based on feelings and not reason. That's where everything, it's the what ought to be versus what is. And just go to Proverbs 14. The wise woman builds her house, but the foolish pulls it down with her own hands. What's happening in marriage and divorce? The woman is tearing down her house. Go ahead.
I told that to my ex before crap happened. It didn't go over well.
Well, I'm like, ladies, okay, this is to the women, the like 2 women watching this show. And come on, haven't you guys ever been pissed? Haven't you guys ever been real pissed about something? Now, if you're watching this, I've noticed that when women come up to me, it's generally younger women. So maybe you guys are a young woman. I don't know. Doubt it, but who knows? Maybe there's like one in the chat. Have you ever calmed down and realized you were wrong or just completely irrational? And you just had a complete come on. Can we just be real here? We're not rational beings. I mean, look at our spending habits. We spend money on we all went and ran to that Target to spend like $1,000 on a cup or 5. You guys know what I'm talking about? Why would it be different in marriage and relationships? Why would it? We don't make rational decisions in any other area of our life. We get like gender fluid studies degrees. Anyways, I
have a question, like, Pearl, like, why do women take women's studies? Like, y'all women, y'all should know about yourselves. Like, I understand, like, men taking women's studies try to learn more about
We're trying to understand ourselves.
Okay, that was a side note.
We had to find ourselves, so we found ourselves in the women's studies.
Apparently.
Okay, what's the next one?
I'm not going to go through all of them because I have like 12, but I'll hop around. Let's go to 150.
1 hour, 50 minutes.
Yeah, 1 hour and 50 minutes and end at 1 hour and 54 minutes.
The reason I said I guess I'm liberal in that one, we need to clip that because that's ridiculous.
No, you're biblical on that one.
I'm like, okay, I have to be honest, guys. I think this conversation made me want to be Catholic less, because I'm like, if that's the teaching Catholicism says you have to stay with someone who committed fraud, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
And I don't know if Michael Knowles went to any, seminary or studied.
You can just call me not Catholic enough. It's fine.
Yeah, I just don't know if he's ever studied any theology or, other than being a layman in church. Because you got two guys that have graduated in theology here. Okay, you got Nick, who was a pastor for the Presbyterians, and I graduated at Liberty for theology. It's like, no, first of all, it does say Jesus or God didn't want divorce, but he said because the hardness of a heart, Moses allowed you to issue your wife divorce for sexual immorality, not adultery, not pornea. It was sexual immorality. And sexual immorality is an umbrella term that actually means a lot more than just adultery. But adultery being one of the main things. Now, mind you, it was also that only a man could divorce his wife for adultery. A wife could not divorce her husband for adultery. Only a man could serve his wife the letter of divorce. Now, God also divorced Israel, and we see that in Isaiah. For what, Nick? Please, Pastor Nick, give it to me.
What about Isaiah?
Why did God issue Israel divorce?
Oh, because they're spreading their legs on every high hill. Oh, that's Ezekiel, but yeah, they rejected God.
Ezekiel. Yeah, so they were worshiping other idols, which was basically adultery, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so even God divorced the nation of Israel for adultery. Okay, and then he forgets the fact that, like, even Paul writes about you're able to divorce if your spouse is a non-believer and they abandon you. Then you're free from that yoke. So he doesn't even acknowledge 7.
But
he doesn't acknowledge either one of those two passages.
The problem I get to with going on with I call them the Bible thumpers. No offense, guys. But it's like, okay, if I give them a scripture, they're just going to tell me some interpretation of something. Like if I go down all these arguments, like even what he was talking about, I'm like, I don't even. When you said that during the debate, I'm like, huh?
There's nothing new.
At the end of the day, Michael Knowles is fine with his son being a cuck and, being a cuckold, and that's okay with him.
I would say divorce that bitch.
And I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure his view of the magisterium is wrong, but I couldn't tell you that for a fact sitting here, but I don't think that's the magisterium's view of divorce. I think they've always allowed adultery as a reason for divorce. I mean, because it says it quite clearly in scripture and as well. Like,
this is really interesting.
Who cares if it's not repeated? It's still there.
This is really interesting because a couple weeks ago, I sent Glenn a podcast on going through the church fathers and their discussion of this issue. And it's been talked about for, 2,000 years. And, we're not new here. And you know what? Pearl's idea of a nuptial agreement, I don't want to use the word prenup, a nuptial agreement with getting genetic testing, I think that's a good idea. Because if you do it at that point, it's not calling into doubt anything. It's not accusing anybody of anything. It's just saying, here's the law.
I mean, my dad would always say trust but verify. What's wrong with trusting but verifying?
Hey, but let's recognize this. Force will be used in marriage. Now, call it force or enforcement or whatever. Someone has the power. And it can be either the woman or the man. Now, our civil law gives the power to the woman, and then she will use it, and oftentimes it's against men. Or you can have a man have the power. Well, he's the head of the household. And then go back to Proverbs 14. The wise woman builds her house, but the foolish pulls it down with her hands. Give the authority to a woman. And what's she going to do with it? Destroy. That's my experience.
Well, I mean, and Michael Knowles seems to try to like be a logical person and rational person. So I'm going to like argue him rationally. I guarantee you this, that he does not know what goes on with that pussy of his wife 24 hours a day. I guarantee you he's not always watching it. I guarantee you he's not always in it. I guarantee you he's not like has a camera on it. When he's away at work or when he's traveling doing a speech, he doesn't know what's going on with it. He has to trust her and hope that nothing is going in there. Now, who knows whose baby that is in her belly? Only the wife knows for 100% fact that that baby is hers. The man doesn't. So why wouldn't it just be easy just to put a blank law saying that all babies need to get a paternity test?
Hey, Glenn, I have a question for you.
That just puts everybody on the equal, honest playing field. Do you know that the singer Neo got conned for raising a kid or paying child support for a child that it wasn't his, and he didn't find out till years later?
Hey, Glenn, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Okay, at the end of the Ephesians 5 nasty stuff that we shouldn't talk about, doesn't it say a woman should respect her man, her husband, and a husband should love his wife? Now, where does it say that the husband should trust his wife? Where's that in the Bible?
Doesn't say that.
It says it's a good thing if you can in Proverbs 31.
We shouldn't listen to our wives because, in Genesis, why did Adam get in trouble? What did God say to Adam in Genesis? Because you listened to your wife and ate the fruit that I told you not to. See, we're all in this mess because Adam decided to listen to his wife to begin with. So when she says it's yours, don't believe her.
Guys, we have 1,000 likes in here. There's 1,300 of you in here. We should have 1,300 likes. Please don't. I'm sorry. I needed to say that. This is disrespectful. We're demonetized. We're putting on the show for free. Hit that like button immediately. Thank you.
You know what's funny? Pearl, that your suggestions that you made were all suggestions that he actually ended up making too.
No.
Yeah, he said reform the marriage laws. Like you said, we need to reform the laws. And he's like, yeah.
I was getting so frustrated because it kept going back to morality. And sometimes I just want to say I'm an atheist in arguments, not because I am, not because I wish to be, but it would just be easier. But God, I'm an atheist, so can we stick to the laws? But God, I'm sorry, it would just be easier. Then I wouldn't have to keep going back to my religion. It's just so frustrating. But God,
I just wonder, if that baby that she has, if it came out black for whatever reason, if he would still have the same opinion. I'm just wondering. I'm just asking for a friend.
I don't know.
You know what, Pearl? I put a link
it's interesting watching. I didn't watch back any of it until this stream because sometimes when people roast me really hard, it hurts my feelings, so I'll avoid it. And I didn't really want to see the comments or anything. But it's interesting watching back. I didn't realize what he was doing that whole debate. Every time I'd start making a point, he would just interrupt me. Every time, and he would just change the topic. And I didn't really realize it until watching it back. So
yeah. So
you two are not that far apart.
Do you see the link in the chat? Now this is this video that I put up there. I just want you to play the first few minutes of it. It is literally the complete contrast of Michael Knowles. And it's a pastor that literally is calling things out like he's supposed to. right?
Okay.
Literally.
It's in the chat. Could you send it to me on Twitter? And I'll pull it up.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome to the show. Welcome back.
Hey there.
Thanks
for having me.
Do you want to introduce yourself to the people? Tell the panel.
Yeah, sure. My name's Shah. I have a channel, This is Shah, and I worked at a child support agency for 5 years. I was a child support officer. I did the genetic tests. I was the person coming after people's money, getting the judgment set, and making the phone calls and doing bank levies and all that. So, yeah,
you were
I know
the guy
Glenn's
that I would dodge.
No, yeah. I want to apologize on behalf of the child support agency to if they ever got you. But yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you, Glenn. I know you were saying something, and after that, maybe I can elaborate on a point from the debate once you're finished.
Yeah, no. I was just, I just sent Pearl the link on. I just wanted to play another video that's completely. It has nothing to do with this video, but it's a complete contrast of Michael Knowles, and we need this if we had more.
So when we think in terms of
Christian guys that spoke like this in this video, it would be. You would see a different approach.
Oh, him. This is the guy I had on, but we lost.
Joel Webbin.
I need to redo that, but we stopped doing shows. Actually, I should have him back on this month. Okay,
Yes, Pastor Joel Webbin.
Okay, we're going to play it real quick, Blessing. Okay.
So when we think in terms of the doctrine of total depravity, people are totally depraved across the board. If we were measuring statistics, it would be equal across the board. We believe, David doesn't just say, in sin did my mother give birth to me, but in sin did my mother conceive me. And so from conception, because of the fall of Adam and sin entering the world, every single human being, all of his posterity, has been born with a sin nature and conceived with a sin nature. And so when we speak of total depravity, distinguishing that for a moment from utter depravity, total depravity refers to sin at the level of the heart. It's speaking of the inward man, meaning that all his inclinations, all his motives and incentives and thoughts are geared towards self and ultimately in rebellion against God. Romans chapter 8 says the mind of the sinful man, it does not submit to God's law, nor can it. And so it's unwilling and unable apart from conversion. And so all people are totally depraved. So if we're speaking of man, our biblical anthropology, if we're speaking of man inwardly, at the inward level, the level of the heart, all men, and so that would include both men and women, are equally sinful internally at the level of the heart, apart from Christ, from conception, apart from conversion. All both men and women, old men, young men, black men, white men, women, men, all across the board, every single human being is equally totally depraved, equally sinful at the internal level. However, to apply an illustration to that, thinking about rearing children and parenting, every child is equally totally depraved apart from Christ. But not every child is equally misbehaved in their outward actions, meaning that internal sin of total depravity does not necessarily outwardly manifest itself equally with each child. There are better behaved children and there are worse behaved children.
Okay. You can go back.
And so basically what he was explaining is
really?
like how
I think
women,
women are far more evil.
Well, that's what he was explaining. He was saying, explain today, like today, women are getting, it's not that women are more sinful, it's that women are getting away with more sin. They're just not being punished, not being held accountable for it.
Right.
And it's like, you want marriage to come back? Go ahead, Nick.
So classically, Joel Webbin's Reformed. I wish he's Presbyterian like me, but we're both Reformed. Reformed theology. So classically, Reformers, Puritans, the Westminster Divines, essentially, they distinguish that, all mankind is sinful, but the sexes tend to sin in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so women tend to sin in different ways than men, and men tend to sin in different ways than women. And deception is typically tends to be one of the ways that women particularly sin.
Shaw, was there a timestamp you had for the Michael Knowles debate?
Yeah, I just wanted to call attention to looks like 50 minutes, 49 seconds. And he was talking about no fault divorce, I believe, starting in Canada. And he mentioned that it shot up. Divorce rate ran up 500% once no fault divorce was instituted over there. And I just wanted to point out just some stuff about what he was saying there specifically. So I'll let you play that first. And
when does it go till? Do you remember?
I don't have an end state, but it's right after I'll stop you.
Yeah, you can just say it because we'll hear you in the mic.
Got it.
Okay,
got it.
so good.
There.
Oh, was that not it?
I'll just explain what he was saying. But he was saying, in 1969 is when no fault divorce was instituted here in Sacramento, California, in the state. And then it took probably like 20 years.
He brought didn't it go to 71? It went 71. Didn't it go nationwide?
In a lot of states it did, but it did take time to spread to all the states. As he mentioned, in New York, I believe it was 2010. Yeah. And there's 2 points I want to make about that. I'll make the first point where he says it rises up 500%. The first thing to note is that there was already a cultural change that was causing the courts to get clogged up with divorce requests. So all no fault divorce really did is just make it easier for the courts to pass these divorces that were already going to happen. It streamlined it, essentially. It made it easy. If you walk into Sacramento's Superior Court right now, William Ridgway, and you go past the metal detectors and look on the left, there's a sign there that says home of the original one-day divorce. And that was a selling point back then because they're like, hey, you can come in here and get your divorce in one day. And you had people coming across from the country, state shopping, they called it, and they'd come here and they'd live here for whatever the required amount of time is just so they can get a divorce. But that's one thing. So what I'm saying is that there was perjury, there was collusion. This is where you get the guy coming out of the hotel room and a photographer he hired would take picture of him with some mistress so that they can go to court and then say, hey, see, approve my divorce now. I was guilty of adultery, and they were colluding with the other party. There was perjury going on. This was a well-known thing. That's what brought no-fault divorce into the picture to begin with. And now with, smartphones and all these other things, if you brought no-fault, got back to at-fault divorce, I still think there could be a compromise. You can get some form of it. But what Michael Knowles is saying is that just bringing in no fault led to this 500% increase in rate. That's true, but there's a backlog of cases there that were getting ready to get pushed through, and no fault just allowed that to be the case. The second point about New York, he brought up something about liberal New York in 2010. And you did a good job challenging him on this because you said, well, there's separation laws. And the thing about New York is that no fault divorce then was almost a formality because I don't know if it was 1 year or 3 years. I think it's 1 year in New York. Even though they didn't have no fault, if you guys are separated for a year, you can then get your divorce. So it's kind of no fault in name only at that point once it gets passed. So he's using these as reasons, but I just wanted to clarify that specifically about what he was saying about the law. The other thing I can expand upon is they kept trying to pound you on this mandatory paternity testing. And, as soon as you said mandatory, this word mandatory triggers them. So, and he specifically said that mandatory DNA challenges the institution of marriage. And I'll try not to be too verbose here, but I can try to explain why he's saying that and kind of how it works today. You have children, you have presumption of paternity. So if a child's born within a marriage, the husband is presumed to be the father, especially if there's no challenge to that within a specific point of time, which you did bring up in the debate about California's 2-year rule. So that was important. The other way is kids that are born out of wedlock. Typically at the hospital, men are presented with the form called the Voluntary Declaration of Paternity. Now, when you sign that, you have 60 days to rescind it. And if you don't do that, you have till the child's 2 in California. And other states, it's different. Tennessee, it could be 5 years or this or that. It just depends, right? And when they signed the Declaration of Paternity, it does say on the fine print, hey, I think it says on the fine print there, but you can get a genetic test. The hospital's not going to give it to you. But the only genetic test that would matter if if you are already legally the parent is going to be the one that the child support department gives you. But you can get it, but no, the hospital does not do it for you. When you say mandatory, it scares them because if you have people who are happily married living as a family and they find out that paternity, they're not biologically the father. This can shake up that specific family, and it can hurt marriages in that way if it comes out. And I get why they say that. I get that we have something called, functional paternity set up ahead of biological paternity enshrined in our law. But people should at least be given the option. You did mention that, at least people can opt out of it if they don't want to take it, but people should be given that option. People should be able to avail themselves. It should be provided to them to do that without, them knowing it. Because a lot of people sign this form and, the hospital just gives them the form. They're like, yeah, just fill this out. Okay, your dad, just fill this out. Just sign here. They're not going to sit there and read everything to them about it. They're not going to sit there and explain how signing this form impacts you legally. So people sign it. Then 5 years later, they're in the child support office talking to me. And they're like, I've had doubts about paternity. And I'm sitting here like, all right, well, I'm looking at your case and your kid's 4 years old and you signed a VDP in the hospital. Yeah, man, there's nothing you're going to be able to do about that. And, child support's going to begin next month on the 1st. And then that's it.
No informed consent. You're not advised of your rights before. Hey, here, consent.
Yeah. Well, no, they get you on the emotion side of it. Like,
yes,
the baby just got born.
The pressure is there. The family pressure is there.
Yeah, it's like you're filled with emotion and like, here, Dad, sign this, and you just want to get back to holding your son or your daughter, and and then you just like sign it real quick. You don't really pay attention, and then you just didn't realize what you signed. And no, a lot of guys get caught that way. I think mandatory is perfect. And I like what you said, Shaw, where you're like, if guys want to opt out, let them opt out. If you want to be in denial, that's fine. That's your problem. But then don't be mad when you find out later that it's not yours. You said, Shaw, where you're like, if that's the risk that you took, you decided you want to be in denial. That's fine.
Exactly. That's the informed consent. That is the informed consent Sandman's talking about right there.
I have a question for Shaw.
Sure.
This is my first marriage. I was about 40. My wife was early 40s. She got pregnant.
Okay.
We've been trying for over 10 years.
Sure.
Gone through all the fertility stuff, eventually adopted. And she got pregnant at about early 40s. And I thought, great. So I bought her flowers. A dozen roses. And she got pissed off. She was pissed off that you bought me roses. Aren't you concerned about my health? And blah, 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 blah. I was celebrating this because, hey, it's a new life. She got pissed off at me. Do you think that was my child? She eventually
I hope it was your child.
She eventually miscarried. I don't know. I have no clue. But based on her reaction, I wonder.
Here's the important thing.
Wait, can I?
Sure.
I'm sorry. I just had a realization.
What's the argument for?
I had a realization during this. Okay, why would they cut it like this? All right,
there's an editing in the original interview.
No. There's no editing.
What part are you talking about?
This clip. They're making it seem.
I got the explanation for the clips or for the cuts.
No. It's not a cut though. It's like sorry, I said cut. Clip it. They clipped it like I was saying. They didn't put why I was saying. Hold on, let me just show you.
What's the?
Look at.
What's the argument for?
What marriage is, why it's still good to do, no matter what the policies are, why man is inclined toward it.
No, any policy?
Yeah, I think marriage is always good.
Any policy.
Yeah, I think any country in the world at any time in history, it's basically good to get married.
So a guy.
I just want to see if. Oh, never mind. They had that in there. Okay, I'm sorry. I almost got triggered, but I thought they cut this part out. I didn't actually watch this.
There was sorry, go on.
Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say, what I find fascinating here, Shaw, is that they want guys to just sign over this, and you said like they rather presume paternity for the sake of not breaking up the marriage when you find out your wife's a whore, and it's like, no, guys, we want to keep the family intact. So we rather you be in denial and you not know that the milkman is really the baby's daddy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way he presented it too. I mean, it's an attack on the institution of marriage. And listen, I understand that. I respect the institution of marriage, but we have created so many laws that have already chopped at the root of marriage already. The child support system, it as an entirety of the federal aid, laws there through Social Security 4D has already created these things. Just the voluntary declaration of paternity as an option has already given men other alternatives to the marriage contract. They have built up so many legal frameworks to try to curtail the trends we've seen of kids being born out of wedlock that if you're a guy now, why sign the marriage contract when you can just, I'd rather just sign a voluntary declaration of paternity if I'm confident that's my kid and then fight for custody later instead of having to fight a whole divorce, instead of having to pay spousal support while I'm trying to pay for fighting custody. You know what I mean? So it's like when they're saying mandatory paternity tests are going to be the thing that threatens marriage, it's like, listen, you've missed the boat, the train on what threatens marriage.
That's not the threat. It's like way more than that. It's the fact that women are not being honest or not trustworthy. That's where the problem is, in that guys and men and women are dishonest. Women
no
will get
punishment
pregnant by other men. That's the problem.
There's no legal implications.
Yeah.
There's no protection for men in that scenario. The judge is going to look at it and they're going to look at it holistically because they have to consider the best interests of the child. And if this other guy isn't there, like anything short of an adoption, let's say even if it's before 2 years old, you're in California, the kid's 1, you managed to get her filed and served. It's in court now. The kid's not 2. And listen, this was an actual case that happened at child support. This is just an example because we had a case where she's a single mom and the kid, are now on welfare. The case comes to our office and we're like, okay, we're trying to find this guy, get the information. And she's like, listen, I went to a party in some city 20 minutes away from Sacramento. It was a Halloween party and the guy had a gorilla mask on the whole time. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's what she told us. So we had no identifying information. That's it. The case was closed unless we find out something new. But if you're a guy and you're the only guy in the picture and the other guy that impregnated her is some guy with the gorilla mask on at a Halloween party, the judge is going to be like, you're the dad because you've held out for this 1.5 years. Who else is going to be this kid's father unless this mysterious man in a gorilla mask shows up? So that doesn't even guarantee anything. There's no protection for men in this regard. Men should have the ability to dissolve paternity status at any point if they find out that this child is not theirs. If they want to be like, hey, that's my son, that's my daughter, I love them, I'm going to continue supporting them, I'm for that. I love that. I admire that. That's great. But listen,
let men have the option to make that choice for themselves.
Men need to have that choice and women need to face repercussions for bad actions like this. There was another case when I was new. I was a fresh-faced child support officer at the age of 25, and the child support agency was across the street from the courthouse. We walked across the street and we got to watch all the child support proceedings. And when it was done, all the people filed out and the commissioner came down to talk to us new guys. And he starts telling me a case, which is kind of funny. It's in Rollo's book, Rational Male, but it was about an NBA player and he worked on this case. And he had a one-night stand. And the woman accused him of being the father. He's like, I'm not the father. They took the genetic test. It came back. He was the dad. He's like, I don't understand. I used a condom. And the commissioner was like, what did you do with the condom? He's like, I threw it in the trash. So it came out that she impregnated herself with this, But guess what? Nothing happened to her. Nothing bad happened. He had to pay child support. That's it. Case closed. There is no repercussion. There is no safety there for men at all.
That's why Drake puts hot sauce in the condom now.
Yeah, I did see that when that happened.
He's like, I'm not letting another porn star get me. I will not do this twice, bitches.
There was another thing. This isn't legally related. It was just something I noticed in there under a timestamp. And he brought up the fact, like what he'll say is that naturally men and women want to get married. And we have to ask ourselves, is marriage really a natural institution? is monogamy really a natural institution? Or is religion really something that's supposed to be supernatural? It tells us to curtail our biological instincts in favor of some collective higher order civilization. He kept saying that as if it's natural. It's like, no, that's not true. It's not natural. Naturally, people want to pursue their biological urges, whether that's short term or long term or whatever, and I just think
I
that was a
disagree.
point to not let him get away on,
I think it is a
And
natural institution. So,
well, sure. I mean, I'd love to hear about what your thoughts on that, but I think personally, naturally speaking, that's not the case for people to stay together. That's why marriage is hard work. That's why we have so
that
many
seems like an
laws.
evolutionary worldview. You're presuming an
Yeah,
evolutionary worldview. He's
yeah, it
presuming a
does.
Christian worldview.
Oh yeah, and that's fine. I'm not going to challenge you on your
Yeah.
beliefs. That's great, but we have all these laws in place. We have all these child support laws in place because if people naturally wanted to do this, well, then I don't think we would need all these laws in place for that. Now, if humans, are in a state of sin, if I'm going to borrow from the Christian framework here, and they need religion to be able to operate at a state that's at least a little higher than that towards some sort of good, then in the natural whatever state of sin that they're in, they're going to move from that point. Now, I don't want to bog it down too hard. That was just one of the things I noticed because it's like, well, when you look at how people operate, especially when they stop being religious, they tend to have a tougher time sticking in a long-term marriage going all the way through. When the culture isn't religious and it starts to be corroded with, atheism and secularism, you start to see the natural default state of people operate again. So I just think it's something that he needed to be challenged about there because he's starting from that as a framework.
And that's why I say sometimes I want to just say I'm an atheist in these debates because somehow it always becomes a morality thing. And it's like, that's not what I'm trying to argue about,
Well, another thing I noticed they tried to do with you, that he tried to do with you, Pearl, is 57 minutes. He mentioned adopting a liberalist, individualist, anthropologist worldview. And it's, for some reason, the conservative party, when people do shine a light on something they're not doing right, they will bring up the liberal boogeyman. Pearl is actually just an undercover liberal, feminist here, and she's not a real conservative or any of these things. And to me, that's just a cop out. That's them not willing to face fair criticism on their lack of action on these very, very important issues.
Yeah.
Well, but it comes down to it. Let's look at marriage. Let's look at what marriage is. We'll look at it from a biblical sense, right? Because that's where he's going to come from. Well, what is marriage? It's when a man and a woman get into a covenantal relationship in the eyes of God, right?
Yes.
So it takes a man and a woman. Right there, we're already conflicting with culture. All right, because culture tells us you could be a man and a cheeseburger, a man and a tranny. You could be whatever variation what you want. You could be married. So marriage today, the way that it's being practiced, is not even the same marriage that's in the Bible. So why is he pushing for marriage when it's not being practiced according to the scriptures? Like
that's a good point, Glenn. Modern marriage has been redefined. It's slippage of definitions. It's not the same as traditional marriage. And let me point out something else. Everybody talks about family values. Values. I don't give a flying fuck about values. I care about principles because principles never change. Values do change. Go ahead, Nick. You're laughing.
Well, I just, modern marriage, like the contract that modern marriage is an abomination. It is basically, it is a screw daddy over contract. It is not what a classical marriage is. And look what happened to men when they got married in the Bible. What happened to them? There's none of this zeroing out. There's none of this losing your business, losing everything, splitting it down the middle. No, they got sent back home.
Well,
So you deal with them.
And it's so funny because whenever I talk about these issues, they want me to like tell men what to do. But isn't it kind of biblical if I say that's not my place, right?
Well, it's not your place.
Yeah.
You know, Second Timothy says, like, you know, you ain't supposed to speak to men. Mind your business.
Well, I'm like,
Supposed to be silent.
I'm not gonna tell a grown like 45-year-old man if he can get married or not. Like, pick for yourself. Like, it's not my job.
You know, I also
the
like.
problem is like if they're gonna go from the biblical sense, there's no Titus 2 women. There's not one. I have not met one Titus 2 woman ever in my life.
What's Titus 2? I'm sorry.
Nick, go ahead.
I think that's the one where it talks about godly women instructing the younger women to, you know, be discreet, chaste, keepers at home.
Aren't you married, Glenn?
Loving their husbands.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, technically people think I'm dating you, but you know.
Whatever.
You know, piggying back on that, at an hour and 4 minutes, he mentioned, I liked, Pearl, that you asked him about authority and, you know, about men having authority in their homes, you know, because a lot of the times the criticism is that there's a lack of leadership from men. And in the interview, you specifically brought that up, but it's like, you know, men can have authority insofar as the women allows them to have it because of the laws. And authority is not supposed, men, you know, you can lead as much as you can, but the thing is that we aren't given legal authority over our families. There's nothing you can do other than, you know, try to give good advice, try to give well-reasoned arguments. You don't have authority. You don't have authority over your wife, over your daughters. I mean, if your daughter becomes an OF girl tomorrow, all I can do is, you know, maybe withdraw my love, hope I tried to raise her as well as I can and explain to her why that might not be good for her. But I have no authority to do anything about it. So all of the responsibilities, none of the authorities. And he basically said, well, in the good marriages, they have authority. And there was just this goalpost moving of like, no, you know what I mean? Because then anytime a marriage goes wrong, they're going to demonize that person. Well, you know, you must have did something wrong, but it's like, no, we have a system of laws that has taken away authorities from men, and men can't be good leaders because they have the sword of Damocles above their head. And the minute they try to put their foot down, if she doesn't like it, they're out of there, and then that's that.
Well, and then how did that go for Andrew Clavin, Dennis Prager, Glenn Black, Steven Crowder, Lauren Southern? Like, I could list, these are all conservatives. They can't, like, what?
Yeah, Steven goes even further than that.
Oh, the list.
Does authority come from God? Well, on the Christian view. Or does authority come from consent of the governed? Consent of the wife? Where does
that's what it's turned
from?
into. If you're going to take on the provider lifestyle in a marriage in 2024, you know, you can be the leader insofar as your wife is giving you permission to do that. It's essentially transferred into her hands to give the authority. That is the whole problem right there. To come back and to blame men as a tradcon and say, and to continue blaming men, to not call this out as an issue, to not want to do family law reform, to give men authority back in the household is kind of hypocritical, if you ask me. But instead they'll say, oh, well, only the good marriages. Or if something went wrong in a particular Catholic household, like, well, they just weren't Catholic enough. But if they were actually Catholic or if they were actually Christian, and it's not fair to do that to people. The no true Scotsman
fallacy.
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
What it comes down to is like even the church has removed the authority from men, and that happened in the 80s with the egalitarianism. Like Nick wrote a whole book on this, like, and he has a second book that's already come out that he has on this, like, you know, and so did Rachel Wilson. Rachel Wilson documented this in her book as well. You know, it's like once the state, you know, told men that you don't have authority over your family, you don't have no authority in your household anymore. The church backed that up and said, hey, guess what, guys? No. You're supposed to be good servant leaders.
Well,
be good slaves.
And my point to Michael was, does he actually want marriage and family to return? Because what he's doing isn't going to make that happen. Saying men get married, you know, men aren't stupid anymore. They've seen we've now had 2 generations, going on 3 generations of men that have gotten screwed by divorce. I mean, men aren't dumb. Every guy knows someone that's gotten screwed by divorce and somebody that's gotten Me Too'd. Men are wising up. So saying to men, hey, get married anyway, that's not going to work. What I'm actually saying might actually encourage what you want. But that's why I kept. That's why
it's at the cost of women, though. That's what it is. They don't want to do it at the cost of women.
But that's what I was trying to say.
It's because someone has to finance the women. I mean, the welfare state is expensive to maintain. It's nice if you can offload someone onto a willing participant who will provide for them, and it's unsustainable. So that's why they have to continue to convince men to do this. The worst thing that can happen is men opting out, because who's going to finance who's going to finance feminism? Basically, what I don't like to hear from the tradcons is that what they'll say is that the red pill is feminism, or that it submits to feminism. That's not true. The original blue pill was that tradcon Disney thinking, and the tradcons, with what they're advising men, actually enables feminism to exist in that way. Because sorry, go on.
No, yeah, sorry, I was just going to say yes. That's it.
No, yeah,
the only place that feminism is thriving is in the church today. That's the only place feminism is thriving. It's not thriving in society anymore. You got transgenderism has shut down feminism in society, but in the church, feminism is thriving.
And the church is in a difficult place, Glenn, because think about it. There has been these change in how annulments work, specifically in the Catholic Church. And I know that's specifically Catholic. It used to be the way the ecclesiastical courts work. To get an annulment's very hard. It has to go up a few levels. I think at least 2. Now I think a local bishop can do it, and that's what was changed. And annulments were only done for very good reasons. But now, if a local bishop can do it and one church is handing out annulments, it's kind of similar to state shopping with no-fault divorce. If you can get your annulment here, but they're in a difficult position, because if the state allows the divorce, okay, now they can't take their communion if they get remarried. Okay, but if they hold fast to that, they risk losing people coming to the church. So they inevitably, because of the state's pressure on them that they're putting on them, become more progressive when they otherwise probably would not have want to. So you have to look at it when it comes to church attendance and these things, like, well, what do they do? And that is the tough part. That's a part I don't want to speak too much, because that's for Christians and Catholics to answer and work on. But I understand when I see the state is creating these pressures that are really, really hurting religious institutions here, especially like the Catholic Church and these kinds of things. Another thing I wanted to point out, Pearl, is I'm really glad you brought up the voting aspect in that interview. I was very impressed by that. And I will say it's more of a problem for the conservatives than it is for the other side. Because if you look at the voting trends, they rely on the mail vote. And I guarantee you the red pill can at least reach 10% of those men's ears. And it's like, okay, why should men care about these other issues like immigration or what's going on at the Suez Canal or all these things if they can't even walk into their own home and they're not on eggshells? If men boycotted the divorce, it would put a fire under these tradcons. If you threatened them with another Biden win, you'd hear Trump tomorrow saying, I've always cared about family law reform. And if you vote for me, I promise to do something about it. And if the red pill and red pill content creators can actually unify and stop fighting each other, at least on this one issue, we can create enough humdrum to get them to take us seriously on this matter. I mean, you got passport bros, you got people leaving their whole lives here. Do you think they care about voting in one election or boycotting one election when they're willing to not get married, not get children, leave their countries that they love and to a place where they barely speak the language because it's at least a little bit better for them? So this is something that even if we can't do it this election, it's a problem that's not going away. The red pill is not dead. It's like Bitcoin. Maybe the stock's here, but tomorrow it's going to pop up again once this, keeps bubbling up. Because the problem's not going away. We've seen our fathers who got divorced. We've seen our uncles. We've seen friends. We've seen this stuff. The generation's getting smarter and smarter and smarter, and ultimately they have to do what's good for them.
I think, Michael, I made a note when I was watching the video. Michael seems oblivious to reality, and that is because he is a blue-pilled alpha.
Yeah, I mean, he's like 5'8", so I really don't consider he has to meet the 6-foot mark to hit alpha status, doesn't he?
Okay, he's not Ryan Stone.
No, I was there. He's alpha.
Yeah, he is. He's a nice guy.
We'll give him alpha status.
Michael he believes that women are, they ought to be.
Well,
and the red pill says women are as they are, love them anyway. So it's an is versus ought distinction here.
Well,
Do I want to believe that what women ought to be is how they really are? No. That's why I've been through 2 divorces now. Women are as they are. I don't love them, but they're not sugar and spice and everything nice.
Well, and I think I offended Candace Owens recently because I was talking about how the Daily Wire comes off out of touch a lot. And what I was referring to is they come off out of touch from middle class America. And I don't know, like dads, I guess the family court stuff. It just seems like they have no view on reality with it. And I get so confused because Michael Knowles will go on whatever podcast. I'm like, you see what's going on? Like, do you just not? But what I found is those guys live in such a bubble. Like, they might not be materialistic. I think she took it because she got kind of mad. She was like, he goes to Walmart. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't make you in touch with the average American experience. but I grew up with guys like that where they're like that's kind of a lot of them remind me of like where I grew up, where it's like upper middle class. They tend to come from families that had businesses. Like they none of them really did like middle class American jobs or had like a middle class American experience. And my point is, those guys are going to have a completely different worldview because they're around the top like 25% of people, like in terms of wealth and socioeconomic status. And I think the divorce rate is a little bit lower for wealthy people. I think it's like 25%.
Well, they have more to lose there. But I want to give Candace Owens, when we were in the where you're getting your hair and makeup done, she did say she actually supported prenups. That's something that we couldn't even get Michael Knowles to say that he supported.
Yeah.
So I'll give her credit for that at least.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if they end up having me on her show or not, because I wonder if we would agree or disagree. It'd be interesting.
Who needs to be leaders here?
What?
I'm talking as a Catholic. Who needs to be the leader?
Well, it would be nice if our politicians started doing that for one.
No, they weren't given that role. I'm going to say the bishops of the Catholic Church need to be the leaders in this. Because, hey, let's assume, just pretend you're a Catholic bishop. Have you seen your vocations go down? Yes. Where do vocations come from? Large families. Your priesthood has been going down for the last 30 years. Now, you have all these statistics. Our marriages, the number of marriages performed in the Catholic Church in your diocese going down. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got the statistics. Have the number of baptisms been going down in your diocese year after year after year? And you're sitting there doing nothing. And you also know the abortions are going up. And throughout history, Catholic bishops have always challenged the leaders, whether they be monarchs or whatever, to adhere to morality. And where are the Catholic bishops in this whole thing? Now, I don't care if you're Catholic or not, but I look to the Catholic bishops, and they're supposed to be the successors to the apostles. In the Catholic Church, we believe there was a laying on of hands, and there's a lineage going back to the apostles. The bishops are the successors of the apostles. Where is their leadership?
Well, I mean,
obviously
if you
nowhere.
Look at like the church as a business. You look at church as a business, because I mean that's really what it is. At the end of the day, they have to run it like a business. You are losing the men folk who make the most money out of both sexes. Men tend to make more money than women do, right? Overall, you're losing that group of people who could pay into your business.
You know,
So how many churches are closing up, Nick, like yearly? Like on average, isn't it like close to 3,000 churches or something like that a year?
Honestly, Glenn, I was so happy when I found out he was Catholic, because none of this shit was gonna fly with me, that you have these special churches in the middle of nowhere. Oh no. Oh no. I've seen your Latin communities. My cousins grew up in them. You know, you're not going to convince me of this. Your church is not special or different or immune from female nature. It's just not. So your women are not any special or different. I've been pretty involved. I used to go to like Catholic camps like in the summer growing up, and most of the girls I grew up with aren't really practicing. So where are your special women? Like
Pearl, I agree with you. I live in Fargo, North Dakota, one of the more conservative dioceses in the country, where it's a lot better here. But hey, I told you my story, and that's my experience. And the bishop is still not standing up and taking care of things, and they just let my situation go through. So, you know, I'll have to stand before God. And you know what? One thing I won't have to answer for is what I've been accused of by my ex-wives.
Can I ask you, did they process annulments for you or for your wife in that scenario? Did the church actually issue an annulment there?
I never got to the point of filing one, because you know what? I have to understand things, and I don't have proof. And so I have a lot of circumstantial evidence from my first marriage why it was not valid, but you know, I never filed, and then all of a sudden my documentation just disappeared. My computer got infected, and it went away under my second wife. And then my other files just kind of disappeared. So I don't know what happened.
Guys, if you don't mind, if you're on Twitter retweeting the stream, Blessing asked me to. Oh, and the people watching. I guess we have 1,500 people watching on Twitter. What a day.
Yeah, 1.6 actually.
Oh, 1.6.
Yeah.
Okay, was there any other timestamps from the discussion that any of you wanted to bring up?
I have like 12, but I'm saving a lot of them for when I do the breakdown. The only one I could think of go to 150 to 150. Oh no, I think we did that one already, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Then do 145 to 147. Okay, 145. There was a comment made there that
I get so frustrated. I get so irritated because, I'm sorry, so women can figure out how to do a 37-minute makeup tutorial on how to make them look like a completely different person, but you couldn't do any research into starting an OnlyFans, having an abortion, or contracting an STD, divorcing your husband, or anything. Get the fuck out of here. Get out of here. It just drives me nuts. How are we not responsible? I mean, just take it's called taking the L. And I think we should just learn to take the L and move on. Sometimes you make the wrong choice. L. You're on OnlyFans. Your vagina's on OnlyFans for life. L. You got an STD. L. You got an abortion. L. Your life's a mess. You're in debt. L. Why can't we just take L's? Just take it. L. Thank you.
Let's call it invincible ignorance.
Well,
sorry, I just irritates me.
Do you remember when he was like saying that like men take advantage of women in the debate? Like men take advantage of women sexually. That women don't want to have sex. It's men that take advantage of them. And then you were like,
do your wives not want to have sex with you?
Like
no, like I'm just asking. Like,
did he not read Proverbs 7 at all? Like Proverbs 7 is about this woman out there literally pursuing men and then like taking her home where there's like dead man's bones. Like, come on, man.
It seems like trad cons, at least like Michael Knowles, have a hard time of ascribing accountability and agency to women. You know, he relies on the kind of pick the right one strategy. And it's like when men end up getting, you know, screwed in divorce court, it's like, well, you didn't pick the right one. But if a woman becomes a single mom, it's like, well, this terrible person did that to you. They don't say you didn't pick the right man. Like, why don't you just pick a guy that doesn't pump and dump you? You know what I mean? It's always
because they're not
about
attracted to them.
yeah. Well,
Hey, this
yeah.
pick the right one thing. Let's go back to Genesis. Adam said, "Hey, I'm lonely." God created this woman for him. Was she the right one? Yeah,
No,
well,
listen.
I assume so. And what happened there? He listened to her and it went bad. So is there any right? Can you pick the right one? I don't think so. Not with a guarantee.
Well, it's a simpery that's going on here. He's doing simpery.
S-I-M-P. S-I-M-P-I-N-G. Stop simping. That's what I want to start.
There was another point where you asked about marriageable women, and he said, "What? Well, it's about 50-50 men and women for we're about parity for population." I heard that, and I was like, yeah, but a lot of those women don't want to live traditional lives. A lot of those women, you know, are modern and feminist, and they don't want to live the way that the church or Bible tells them. But you know, again, he's going to blame men for that. But that's another example of him saying, hey, not putting the agency on the women themselves or the accountability. But what are men supposed to do if the majority of women in that 50-50 parity don't want to have kids or pair off or do this stuff, right? It's not all on the men. Blaming men is not going to fix this problem. It's just they failed with doing anything about feminists. They failed at bringing them back into a traditional role. So now they're frustrated and they just want to whip men even harder than they ever have before. And it's not working. It's just going to drive the men away.
Good luck. Good luck. And that was my whole point.
He really didn't like Kathy's numbers here either.
That was my, I know. And then he was going after, I'm like, don't go after Aaron Clary. That's my guy.
Well,
Okay,
he
he's
did
so
an
smart.
ad hominem attack against him.
Yeah, he was like, well, you know, the first sentence, there was some grammar issue.
Grammatical error. If someone has a grammatical error, but their message is good, that's okay with me. Like, I'll read someone's book if there's some grammar errors in it, if it's a good book. I could look past that, you know? But if there's something actually wrong with the data and facts, then that's another thing.
Well, and then he was talking about how, and that's why I'm like, are you blind? You go on whatever. Look, I understand ignorance, okay? I grew up around these type of guys. Like, I totally get it. I grew up, because I think Michael's Catholic. Like, I grew up upper middle. It's kind of a bubble, all right? But you guys, once I started interviewing chicks, I'm like, shit, I wouldn't date anyone either. This is exhausting. I'm like, how can you not?
There was one other thing. Oh, go ahead, please.
Let me point out something. When he attacked what you said about Aaron Clary's book, that's an ad hominem attack. That's pretty lowbrow. You can't attack the man's message, so you attack his grammar.
Well, you know,
shoot the messenger because you don't like his message.
At the end of the day, you know what's funny, bro? Sad thing is that you care more about his son than he does.
Yeah, ironically, that's true.
I mean, all of us care more about his son and his son's future, you know, relationship or, you know, whatever than he does. He wants his son to be a cuck.
He's not adequately preparing his son for what the son is going to face out there, which is, you know, the whole blue pill, red pill. You know, a lot of people talk about the red pill, but everyone seems to have forgotten the word blue pill or what that used to mean, especially back in the early days of the forums of the red pill. The blue pill isn't just a atheist simp that wants to get laid from a woman. A blue pill is also someone that subscribes to the old contract conditioning of the kind of Disney fantasy save the princess idea. And in the society we live in, this role of the princess has been completely deconstructed by media and culture. Men are sitting here still trying to play the prince, and now we're trying to figure out, what does a prince look like when women don't want to be saved anymore? You know what I mean? And he's going to raise his son in this save the princess mentality, and that's how he'll end up getting Steven Crowdered. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was sorry to drop off to something else. There was something at 19 minutes where he brought up no-fault divorce at 1969 and how it's actually been a long time since 1969. And he was trying to undo one of your points about saying, well, there has been a long time of this and that. But I didn't like that point. You might need to replay it because I can't exactly.
No, I'll play it. What timestamp?
19 minutes. Yeah, I'm sorry. My timestamps aren't very
I'll do it a
precise.
little. I'll do it a little early just to.
Yeah. The Catholic Church is not exempt. It's absolutely not exempt. I've seen a lot of the same trends in the Catholic Church.
I guess my confusion is, though, you bring up these statistics, and so then we acknowledge the statistics that show that if one gets married, assuming that divorce is not a sacramental reality, that the likelihood of divorce goes way down. But then when we say that, you instantly say, well, actually now the statistics aren't worth anything because young people are different.
Wait, say that again? Sorry.
So
wait.
We agree that the numbers for Catholics, Jews, Muslims, Orthodox Jews and Muslims, divorce numbers are way lower. And you acknowledge those statistics, but then you say,
no, I don't. No, I don't.
You don't? Okay, all right.
No, because most of those include women over a certain age.
Right, you're saying the young people, it's totally different.
Time, Michael.
So what is...
And that's the same thing. Like the time my parents got married in is completely different.
So what changed, other than now they have, so they meet on apps rather than at bars, and that's the big change? That's why we can't believe the statistics anymore?
Well, the average marriage is 7 years now, Michael.
Right, but we've had divorce, expanded divorce for a long time. We've had no-fault divorce in America since 1969. So, I acknowledge these are, by historical standards, relatively novel, but we're still talking like 50 years, right? More than 50 years.
See, right here, this is the part I take some issue with, because it's like, yeah, that's true. Sacramento, Governor Ronald Reagan signed into law no-fault divorce in 1969 in California only, but it took time to create the situation we're in now. The child support program wasn't passed federally until 75. It didn't get its teeth until 1996 when Perora passed. And there's a lot of things that are different from 1969 up until now. So he's trying to say there's a 1-for-1 between 1969 and I just couldn't let him get away with characterizing it that way, because I think he's not I don't want to say anything mean, but he's being disingenuous. Yes, thank you, Glenn. That's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, well, because you also got to my question is, okay, if the churches are supposedly doing it right, why have divorces only increased amongst Christian denominations? You got, I think, Pearl, you're mentioning what, Catholics are at 35% or 25 to 35%?
I mean, I was trying. Oh shoot, my audio's going. I think it's the cord. Hold on. Okay, can you hear me? I think so. Okay. I didn't want to argue about 25%, 35%, 45%, or 50%. I was trying my best to just give it to them. Okay, 45, 35%. From what I've seen, it's actually pretty much the same when you look at the divorce stats the other way. Because in a lot of these studies, they'll discount people as not being real or something. But there's, and I'm going to be butchering this, but there's a guy who helps me with some of the research for it. And he was saying if you look at the number of divorces, you get a different number than some of these niche studies. That's pretty much the same within 5%. But I knew that if I said anything like what it is, they were just going to argue with me into oblivion about that stupid 10%. So I said, you know what?
Yeah.
I'll give you 35%, even though we all know it's not. But I'll play pretend with you for an hour.
Yeah, and
still terrible.
And
I know.
It's still terrible.
Is it among evangelicals? It's at 25 to 35% as well, or if not more.
We all know it's more. They've butchered these stats somehow. I just can smell it. We all know.
But okay, so look at this. Why? How is it that the Christian denomination that says that marriage is the reflection between the relationship between Christ and the church have such high number of divorces amongst the religion that says we reflect the relationship between Christ and the church? It doesn't make sense to me. So it's
because
like
they're not
something
really
has to be
conservative.
fundamentally wrong here.
They refuse to acknowledge the state's role in this. You know, the church unfortunately does not have the power to control, you know, these divorces anymore. It's now gone over into the civil courts, into the state. The state has created these laws, which has really affected how people's marriages are doing. And but the strangest part is that the tradcons will then double down and say, you know, they'll, you know, obviously be like, people need to be more religious. If everybody was just more traditional, we're just more traditional. And unfortunately, it's not working. But they refuse to really look at the state and start calling that out. I mean, their media needs to start pushing this as a message. We need to hear politicians saying that and understanding that their constituents are crying out for that. There's a real problem here. And I would love to hear Trump or other politicians talking about this and trying to get something passed at least, or at least trying to bring this up as a big issue. Otherwise, they are going to lose the voters.
Can I point something out here? I don't have the statistics at hand, but there have been studies, I believe, of the abortion rate between Catholics, evangelicals, and secular women. And it's not that different. And I would say, well, that probably reflects divorce rates. They're not that different. But, okay, and there has been no studies on this. Are marriages among Catholic people potentially more nasty than secular? Well, my perception, my experience is yes, because a Catholic woman does not believe in divorce, but she wants to divorce, so she needs a good reason. So she's going to come up with an excuse, bad thoughts against children, kind of something like that, to get out of jail free card, so she can maintain her standing in the church and avoid the shame of
He's right.
That's
for
an
divorce.
interesting point. That's
right.
That's really
He's right.
And it's true of evangelicals too, maybe to a lesser extent. So I'm not singling out Catholics here, but
can we just bring back stoning
Catholic girls?
You know, like,
come on. I grew up around these Catholic chicks. They will not convince me of anything. No, we are not special. I don't know much about. There's Orthodox. Maybe they're a little better. I don't know a lot of Orthodox people, but I'm sorry. Your moms were just as hoes as the rest of our moms. I mean, I've seen Catholic women cheat. I've seen Catholic women alienate the kids from the father. I've seen devout Catholics raise whore daughters. I've seen devout Catholics raise good daughters. I've seen it all. You guys will convince me of nothing. No. It's no special. I'm like, I grew up. I went to Catholic school my entire life. You will not. People are people.
Here's the
people
thing,
are people. People are people regardless of where you go. And that's what irritates me. My dad always had a phrase he would say to me when I was growing up. He would just, whenever something crazy or I'd find out something happened, he would just look at me and say, people are people. People are people in the church, outside of the church. People have a nature. Your church isn't special or different. Thank you. You're starting to...
here's the sad thing about it. If marriage is done, like, now, if you're coming from a biblical worldview, if marriage is done correctly, it is a beautiful thing, right? You got this perfect harmony here, right? You got this hierarchy. You got the man loving his wife like Christ loved the church, you know, just taking care of her, educating her, washing her through the word. That means teaching her the Bible, because, you know, women ain't supposed to be preaching to nobody. But like, you have this beautiful thing. She submits to him and his leadership, and he doesn't do any foul because he loves her as he loves himself, and he would not do anything foul to himself. And she respects his leadership. Okay. It's like, there's this beautiful way that it's supposed to be done, but the churches doesn't even teach that way anymore. It doesn't even support the original model of marriage. And you're wondering why the church is failing at marriage? We're wondering, they don't even teach the word right.
Right.
I mean, Nick, you have a whole book on this.
And Glenn, what happens to those that do teach?
Oh, they get kicked out of the churches, and they get, like, you know, tarred and feathered,
out, like me and my other friends have done.
Yeah. Well, guys, I'm gonna take call-ins from the public soon. So I'm gonna.
Can I make one more point on that?
Sure. Go
No
ahead.
more, Steve. No more. Be quiet.
Oh, screw you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey,
go ahead.
remember? Oh, we're getting to that season. Palm Sunday. Everybody welcomes Christ. Oh, yeah, he's great. Marriage. You get married, and oh, the husband is great, great, great. And then what happens? About a week later, year or two later, crucify him, crucify him. So if we are like Christ to our wives, are they going to go from loving us to wanting us dead?
Well, they already do.
Nick is laughing. Hey, you know what? I want to hear what he has to say.
Oh man, brother. My experience, exactly. I was the greatest. I'm this godly man. Now I'm the devil himself, Crucify him, destroy him.
Do you guys want to say where the people can find you? Because I'm about to drop this link in the chat.
Sure. You can find me on YouTube at This Is Shah. That's Shah spelled S-H-A-H. This is Shah.
Thank you, Shah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. The rest of you guys want to go?
You can find me on Twitter at Cairo_unplugged or XP_unplugged. And I have a YouTube channel. I think you fix it, but it's like Nick at Christianity Unplugged or something like that.
Blessing, don't let anyone from the link in yet, just so you know.
And you can't find me because I'm just on Glenn's channel. I haven't decided if I wanted a public presence yet, but Glenn and I do a podcast every Sunday.
And you guys know you can find me. You can find me at Glenn Lawrence Presents on YouTube, Mr. Glenn Lawrence on Twitter. Yeah, thank you, Pearl.
Thank you guys all for coming on. Okay, guys. So guys, we are gonna go to. You can take the Zoom off. There you go. Okay, so I'm gonna actually accept callers, and my question is, am I a feminist? Now, I need feedback from the people. As you guys know, I am no stranger to criticism, but we need some guidelines, okay? Now, this is my show. This is my show. I've put in a lot of work to put on this show, and right now I'm doing it for free. $0, So I am allowed to have rules. And if you don't like my rules, you can kiss my ass and get the F off. Respectfully, okay? So, number one, you do not overtalk me. I don't care if you feel like you deserve more mic time. I will mute you and kick you off. Am I able to have the Zoom on my screen, Blessing?
No.
Okay, be good with my kickoff, all right?
Yeah, if you say kick off someone, we're going to kick someone off.
All right.
We're going to kick someone off.
All right,
we're going to kick someone off.
Okay. Someone's asking for my Instagram. I've been banned on Instagram. Okay. Question. Now, I'd really like to, my priority, I'd like to actually ask women. Because I've gotten so much pushback from women. Everyone says I only want to talk to men, no women, no women, no women. So if there's a woman in the chat, I really encourage you. I don't bite. I'm actually quite nice, regardless of what the people say. I want to know, am I a feminist? We'll talk to the guys too, but the chicks, I just think it would be nice to, anyways. Stop saying my Nancy Pelosi hand gestures. I'm sorry. I like to talk with my hands, all right? Okay, sorry. All right, number two. Any personal attacks, any, internet, room, whatever you want to bring up. I'm not here to talk about drama. I'm asking, am I a feminist? So if you're going to bring up your own random topic, get out of here. This isn't what we're here to talk. I'm asking, am I a feminist for saying that marriage is a bad deal for men in 2024. If you're blocked on my Twitter, I probably just think I don't want to talk to you. So sorry, you don't get to come on. I think that's. Do we have anyone in the chat? How many people are in the Zoom? Okay, let me.
All right, I just kicked 2 guys off. If you come on the Zoom, make sure your camera is on. Otherwise.
Oh yeah, sorry. Camera's gotta be on. We gotta write these rules. I'm gonna pin it in the chat.
And wait until you're called up as well.
Yeah, can you mute? Are there any women that came on, or is it all guys?
It was all guys. And thank you guys on X. We got 2,400 people on X.
Wow.
Please make sure you're liking, reposting, all of that good stuff. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna tweet. Because the TradCon women have had so much to say to me. And so I'm just asking the question. All right. TradCon, I'm gonna tweet at you guys. TradCon women, call me now. Or wait, get on the Zoom link, por favor. Is there any way I can see the screen of who we let in without everyone else seeing it?
No.
Well, then I can get up and do it because there's some people that I'm not giving clout until I see who I'm talking to.
Yeah, they need to turn their cameras on first as well.
Oh yeah, no, kick them off if they don't have their cameras on.
Yeah.
Just kick them. Guys, I mean, what do you think? Who do you think you are coming on the show? I need to see your face. You're not just going to get to troll and say what you want. Nope, I need face.
Okay, we got Brennan here now.
Okay, wait.
I'm not putting him straight.
I feel like we should have thought about this. Because what I don't want...
Nah, he looks like a nice guy.
Okay, we can bring up Brennan. Okay, I don't want any trolls. That's what I'm asking. Yeah, that's fine. You can bring him.
Wait, give a second.
You didn't have time to turn... Well, then turn it on and turn the link again. I mean, I'm not going to be able to go all night, you know. I'm just saying.
Give me a second. We got Brennan on ready to go. Oh, we got a lady as well today.
All right, the lady can go second. We'll let Brennan. Brennan seems like a nice guy.
All right, so Brennan, you're gonna be on first.
All right.
Okay, and
hello, Brennan. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm a married Christian guy. I also appreciate the work you're doing. I have some thoughts on this topic.
Okay.
So I don't think you're a feminist at all. I think that's kind of an outlandish accusation.
Yay.
Nor would I call you a liberal.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're reasonable.
Okay.
And I'm a married guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think outside of ultra Orthodox Christianity, where especially communal Christianity. So I'm a Mennonite convert, which is kind of like a cousin to the Amish. And so I'm using technology, obviously, but it's somewhat limited. The divorce rates are like 3%. And part of the reason is people are highly interdependent. And there's an enormous amount of financial and social pressure not to get divorced. So there are some groups that voluntarily associate that have a system that makes it that disincentivizes divorce.
Where are you at?
I'm located in Georgia.
Georgia. Am I able to visit these communities? I actually want to go see one.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, you're a Midwesterner, right? I don't know if you still live in the Midwest, but
I'm in London now, but there's one in Chicago area. That'd be ideal when I'm home.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few. Yeah, there's quite a few Mennonite churches in Southern Illinois. So if you're willing to drive a couple hours, if you look up the Eastern Pennsylvania Mennonite Church, as well as there's a website called Pilgrim Ministry, and you can find a map of Mennonite churches throughout the United States. They are extremely conservative. Women wear head coverings and 1400 style dresses.
Oh wow!
Oh yeah. So
could you show my screen? I'm going to show them the pictures of it. Sorry, keep going. I'm just going to show them. Show the screen real quick.
Sure. Yeah, so I think there's quite a few. There are some, and I use the word Orthodox not as an Eastern Orthodox, but there are some very ultra conservative Christian options in the United States that prevent a lot of this nonsense. And me and my wife, we were fed up with what the churches were teaching, and ultimately we decided we wanted to go attend a church that actually followed what the Bible said. And some of you guys who were on earlier, they were talking about, hey, submitting to your husband, and as well as loving your wife as Christ loved the church. Well, there are some churches that do that. So let me put it this way. So in a Mennonite church, people insure each other, for example. So health insurance, car insurance, you name it, is all through the church, and people mutually assisting each other. So let's say you're someone who wants to divorce your husband for no reason. You're now opting, there's a financial penalty for doing that. You go and just walk off and divorce your husband. You're now throwing away your health insurance and your car insurance. Health insurance, car insurance, and medical insurance. So I think that's like kind of, if churches organize that way and create disincentives, I think that's pretty effective.
So I'm confused. But they would still be opted into the state, right? So like if she wanted, I just don't understand it. So you can just tell me if I'm right or I'm wrong. So if she's in a Mennonite community and like, let's just say, your wife divorces you tomorrow, she loses the insurances that she got through the church.
So the church has this system of mutual aid. So there's this verse in the Bible lifting up each other's burdens.
Right.
And with you as a member, you swear off health insurance. You swear off all welfare through the state. You swear off auto insurance, and so basically the church itself provides through reimbursement. It covers all these costs. So what that means is that person's not inherently reliant on the state. And if they want to become reliant on the state, of course, they can go through the court system. They can still decide to go and do whatever any other woman in the United States could do.
Right.
However, there's a massive social cost. Mennonites are pretty well known, and they're cousins to the Amish, but they're pretty well known for being intricately knit communities. And so if you were to go and leave the church, you're leaving all your friends, your family, and no one is going to support your decision to divorce your husband.
Wow.
So there's massive social pressure not to do so. So between the financial and social pressure, most people, decide that, hey, I don't want to lose all my friends and not have my parents talk to me. And, I'm saying and it doesn't necessarily there isn't necessarily shunning like the Amish, but you're never going to hear the mother of some woman who's trying to impulsively divorce her husband say like, oh, you get him, girl. You're a strong, empowered woman. Like, that's just not a conversation that would occur. Just some food for thought. I was thinking very much along the same lines as you. I was very concerned about the future. Hey, like, do the red pillar thing, prenups, you name it. And over time, I was like, okay, well, and also the United States isn't the only country. There are other countries that are like, think about Paraguay.
You gotta do the TV thing, blessing. I don't know if you see this, but.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I think there's the TV's about to turn off or something, but keep going. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. So there's other countries that don't have such liberal divorce laws around no-fault divorce, like Paraguay, you name it. You're in the UK right now.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, if a man is worried about that and he's really concerned, go join a Mennonite colony down in Paraguay.
Where's Paraguay?
It's adjacent to Argentina and Brazil. And so it's a pretty conservative. It's a majority Catholic country, but there's a very large Mennonite presence there. There's a long history behind that, but United States isn't the only option. Yeah, the U.S. sucks with its laws, but there are some, for those who do want to get married, there are some alternatives. And that's if you're going to become Mennonite, though, I would not say this is that should be the only issue you look at and be like, hey, there's a low divorce rate, and they pressure people not to get divorced. There's a lot more to Anabaptist beliefs there. One of the tenets is like, anyways, I don't want to try to give you like a conversion talk or something like that,
there's a lot to converting. I'm guessing it's not that simple.
Yeah.
So question, can you hook me up? I've been trying for ages to find some people I want to go to an Amish. I've been seriously wanting to go do like interviews in an Amish or Mennonite, like Mennonites, I guess close enough. Would they go on camera or like?
Yeah, it depends on the group and it depends on the person. You know, hey, everyone's an individual, and that's true with the Amish too. It kind of depends on who you're talking to, but yes, I could. I know some people up in Maine who would be willing to.
Are you on?
I'm sure.
Are you on Twitter? Are you on Twitter?
I am, yeah.
You should, if you know anyone, because I would seriously come out. I've been wanting to do this video forever. Next time I'm in the U.S. So if you got any contact, I really want to go to an Amish place. That would be my number one. But if not, Mennonite would be cool too. So
cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Feel free if you have any contacts to DM me because I've been wanting to do this video.
Sure, I'll make some calls.
All right. Well, thank you very much for calling in.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So the next caller. Am I a feminist? This is my question. Am I a feminist for saying that marriage is objectively a bad deal for men in 2024? Now, and feel free, you can add any thoughts you have on marriage. You know, that was a really cool story, the Mennonite thing. So, you know, but that's the overall topic. Am I a feminist for saying that? And is marriage a good deal for men in 2024? So, all right, vet them. Make sure they're not crazy.
All right, we got Haley here.
All right.
All right, Haley, you're going to come on now. And you ready, pal?
Yes, I'm ready.
Cool.
Hello, Haley. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I like the tie-dye you got there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Question. So this may sound irrelevant, but it kind of ties in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So you were on the show Trigonometry, I think it's called, with the two guys. I think they're from England.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, okay. You said that there was a legal statement coming out regarding why you interviewed Nick Fuentes.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that legal statement? What? And also, I made a video about Steven Crowder's wife, and then you deleted that video. I want to know why you deleted that video.
Okay, we're gonna get rid of her. See, this is the thing with women. I give one rule. I say I didn't delete any video with Hillary, but I say one rule, ladies.
We're gonna kick you out.
Yeah, it's like women. It's like we have you see the man comes on. I say, here are my rules. The women. Can we talk about trigger? Well, okay. Anyways. So next,
all right, we got let's see what's next. We have here Robert. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hope you guys can hear me okay.
Hello. Is your name Robert?
Yes, it is.
Nice to meet you. So, question of the day. Am I a feminist for saying that marriage is a bad deal objectively for men in 2024?
I would say not at all. I would say the problem with this discussion is it's too politically charged. So it's hard to separate that. You know, if you're trying to, like, a car was running rough and you're like, well, how do I fix this? Everyone's going to have a discussion because most people want to make a relationship that works long term. So we're all on the same page. But as soon as it gets political, then it's just charged. So if, let's say we're on a first date and I said something like, well, I'm not really big into marriage. Well, they're going to assume all sorts of things. They're probably going to assume that, you know, I'm afraid of commitment. Oh, I only basically looking at someone for physical relationships. I'm selfish. All those things are going to be loaded into that. When no, the answer could be no, I'm very happy to get married. I'm just terrified of getting divorced. I mean, because those things can be brutal. I've had one that's gone on for 3 years. My attorney's been doing this for 49 years. He says the single biggest parental alienation case he's ever seen. I've had over 20 investigations done on me. So these things can really, really get nasty. So it doesn't mean that you don't want to find true love and make something work. But yeah, you could be very wary of that kind of stuff because it's a huge cost to successfully win this case. It takes some doing. I've probably dropped easily over $100,000 in legal bills, and I spend probably on the average about 10 to 20 hours a week working on the legal front. I've lost track of how many times I've been in a courtroom. And it works. I have two wonderful kids that are 2 and 5, and I love them to death, and I would do it all over again. But it's stuff I never would have guessed would have happened before. So
did you end up getting custody?
I have a good deal of parenting time. So I roughly have, weeks in the summer. Normally I have about three weekends a month for 3 days, so 9 days. So I'm currently going back to court to have my youngest rolled into the same parenting plan just because she left as soon as she found out she was pregnant. So they were making the argument that, she was exclusively breastfeeding but couldn't pump for a couple years. So my time is more limited with my youngest.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, if you hang in there, you really do survive. I mean, like I said, I've had I've had 18 DHS investigations. But eventually, if you hang in there, a lot of times the truth does come out.
Yeah.
So.
How long was your divorce? Like how many years total?
We were together a total of 4 years, and then 3 years into it, the divorce with final orders was a year, but she kept always alleging abuse. And so every time she alleged abuse as emergency motion, it would go before the courts. And she was kind of in a small town, so it took a while to kind of break through that as well. Mm-hmm. But it's really bizarre. I mean, my 5-year-old isn't even toilet trained at her house because she intentionally makes it so he can't be, even though he uses the toilet at my house and at school. So there's a lot of really bizarre things. Mm-hmm. So the kids have taken, a serious blow because they're kind of being weaponized. But, eventually, I've had a really good judge, and I'm a very strong Christian, so I've had a lot of divine intervention. I really got one of the best attorneys you can have, and eventually got really good in-home therapists appointed, but each one of those would almost take like a 3-4 month legal battle.
Wow.
To those components in place. And it takes a lot to get off those allegations because anyone I've dealt with that's a professional, if they're under 40, that Me Too movement is a thing. They really just take whatever the woman says at face value, and you almost have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that those allegations are false. Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot of work to do that, which is hence kind of the 10 to 20 hours a week I usually have had to spend in this matter.
Proving you didn't do something, basically.
Oh, yes. And it started off with, like, any time that my poor kid got a bruise, because it started when he was 2 years old, she'd be taking pictures, be going to DHS. And then she kept upping it to where it's like now it's, sexual abuse and all this kind of stuff. So my poor kid has had multiple SANE exams done on him. Wow. And it's really hard to put a kid under the age of, you can't hide a kid under the age of 7 being sexualized, especially that young. It's very, very, very obvious. Mm-hmm. And nothing wrong with the kid. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty funny. Like, his teacher will be, he's a wonderful kid. He's normal. And his mother's making these allegations that he can't even wash his hands. He can't take a bath. He can't comb his hair. And he can do all of it. But because we have very strict laws about, with HIPAA and everything, that a teacher can't even talk to a therapist without, waivers being signed. So the only people that can even connect dots are investigators. So the kid can be perfectly fine, but.
Were there any glaring red flags you would say about your ex-wife that in hindsight maybe like younger guys should look out for, or would you say that there wasn't really any?
Strangely enough, there really wasn't any until my first son was born, and then things changed pretty dramatically. And I have a lot of really good friends around me that are very professional, and they didn't even see anything. So it kind of took all of us aback that things went this south this quickly. But I'm 47 myself, so I'm rather older. I all that kind of stuff. And I really found that there are some very huge generational differences where things kind of look okay on the surface, but behind the scenes, there's a lot going on. I mean, my understanding is almost 1 out of 10 young people, millennials, to attempt suicide. I know self-harm has quadrupled just in the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. So if you're really with people that have, mental health issues, you're gonna really have to struggle to have a somewhat functional relationship.
Mm. Well,
and so I kind of, a lot of it was just she was young and a little inexperienced that I didn't really see it for what it was, because I was 40 and she was roughly 29 when I met.
Okay, got it. Well, thank you for calling in. I appreciate you telling me your story.
Oh no, thank you for all that you do. I am so grateful for your podcast, because I wish I could properly cite the person who said this, but it was Pearly. He basically said that we all have primitive minds trying to navigate medieval institutions with almost godlike technology, and it's rather difficult to get those things to juxtapose correctly.
Yeah.
And hence have a functioning, relationship. So it's not because anyone's really messing things up. It's just it is pretty difficult now.
Yeah.
But yet we all yearn for a good relationship. We truly do. So thank you for bringing the dangers of this, because I work literally over 100-hour weeks to pay my attorneys.
Yeah. Well,
and it's a mess. So
yeah, thank you very much for calling in.
Thank you. God bless. All right.
Someone says Pearl is built like a linebacker. Rude. Rude, Catherine. Okay. Who's
all right, we got the next caller, Dale.
Did we have a chick that tried to get in? Or is that the same chick?
Nah, she's gone. The one that was here that she left.
These crazy ladies.
I knew she was gonna be trouble.
Then why'd you let her? It's like Blessing.
It's gonna be.
Why would you let her in if you knew she was gonna be trouble?
I gave it a little bit of hope,
It's like they'll be like, Pearl, there's good women. Come on my stream then. Sorry.
All right, we got Dale coming up now.
Hello, Dale.
Hello, Pearly. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
All right. So am I a feminist because I say objectively marriage is a bad deal for men in 2024?
Okay. I'm going to define marriage before I get to the feminist part.
Okay.
And so being a Christian, I define marriage as between a man and a woman, and that a husband and wife have defined roles. And a husband is called to love his wife like Christ loved the church, and to lead by example, by self-sacrifice, even if it's down to the cost of his life. He has to provide that safe and secure environment for that woman, and they are designed to work together, and the woman is supposed to then provide the needs of the husband. And when they work together, they restore the image of God on the earth, because it is to demonstrate the relationship between Christ and his Father in a way that makes sense to human beings. And they're supposed to be united and to be one flesh. And so absolutely, that is with the right person who has the right character. It is definitely the most beneficial thing that any man can do, because the whole of the man and the woman working together will be greater than the sum of its parts. It's impossible for a man.
Right, but I'm not talking about like this.
No. Just hold on.
No,
hold on.
No, you don't get to. This isn't how that
go
works.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Continue.
Just kick
Go
him.
ahead.
Just kick him. We'll go to the next one. I don't like people talking back to me on my own show. Look at, I put in a lot of work to this. See this? This isn't your monologue. I'm showing you guys, not, he can come back on the next show, but I'm showing you guys my rules for coming on. No, this is not. You get to come on here and do as long of a monologue as you want. And Pearl doesn't get to interrupt you on your own show. If you're talking, if you're going to random, no, you don't get to hold up. You can do that on your channel. If I meet you on the street, I'll be polite, But here, it's super simple. I give these easy rules. It's so easy. Okay. I'm going to go through them again. And I think they're reasonable. 1, you don't get to come on and pick your topic. 2. No over talking me. It's my show. No over talking me, all right? 3. I forgot the other. I need to write these down. Okay. No.
And turn your cameras on.
Oh, turn your cameras on. And 4. Oh yeah, don't back talk. It's just like, who do you guys think you are? Go on your own channel. Go. Okay. Thank you. We'll go to the next one. We'll try again. And by the way, this is not, if you can disagree with me. I am totally fine with the disagreement. But what you're not going to do is overtalk me and talk back to me. That's, I don't really care. And if you don't like it, I don't really give a shit. Go start your own show that no one watches. Okay. Next one.
All right. I'm going to bring on Elena first. Preston, you're going to have to hold on because Pearl be wanting to talk to a female. You have one coming up, Pearl. Let's see. Get your mic ready, please. Elena, I'm asking you to unmute. All right. And Pearl, you ready?
Mm-hmm. Oh, hello.
Hi, Pearl. Great to see you. Thank you.
I've seen you before somewhere. Were you on Glenn's stream?
I have been, yeah.
Oh, I was like, I recognized you. So, question of the day. See, look, I just want to show you guys. Do you see how she comes in with a smile on her face? Do you see, like, everyone says I don't hate women. I just hate combative women. Look at her. She's friendly. She's like happy to be here. Look at her. And she could disagree with me. I wouldn't even care. Okay, sorry. All right, am I a feminist for saying that objectively marriage is a bad deal for men in 2024?
Well, in 2024, I don't think you would be considered as a feminist for saying this, because we have to be realistic here, right? How does the marriage end for men? It doesn't end great for most men, right? I'm not talking about like the top 10% of the men that all women want to be with, right? So no, I wouldn't call you a feminist. In fact, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I think that we actually need more women like you.
Oh, thank you. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Russia, but I've been living in Europe, and I've been here in the US for over 8 years now.
Tell me, I'm curious, is there a big, when did you had to have lived in Russia. You have an accent still. So were you there until you were...
Yeah, I still have. Yeah. It's something that people have been...
No, I'm asking because were you old enough to know the dating culture there? Because I'm just curious if there's a difference that you've seen like in the West versus Russia.
Well, if you're talking about feminism, we have it in Russia too.
Okay.
And I think at this point, it doesn't matter where you go. You just have to be careful. You have to vet women carefully, applying the rational criteria, no matter where you are. And in terms of culture, there are certain differences in terms of how women view game. I think that they have a better understanding of game in Russia than in the West, but they're still women, female nature. Like your dad was saying, it's in all of us. We are all humans. We want pretty much the same things, So women are going to be women, men are going to be men, anywhere you go.
Okay. What do you think about the passport bros? Do you think that's a good idea to do that, to go to Russia?
Well, right now, I would just stay away from Russia, from Ukraine. Yeah, wait until the conflict resolves itself.
Oh, really? Why?
Yeah, well, do you know what happens now between Russia and Ukraine?
I don't. Well, no, I know there's like the war, but I was more asking. How does that affect?
Oh, in terms of like dating, it's a tricky question. As I said before, there are feminists there as well. So if you're hoping that Russian women are somehow going to be different, they are not. They are the same women.
You're killing dreams out here.
Maybe if you go to like a provincial town somewhere in the village, maybe you'll be lucky to find some girl who hasn't been completely brainwashed. But if you go to big cities, usually foreigners prefer St. Petersburg or Moscow, the bigger cities that have more civilization, let's say, you're going to find feminists.
Okay. I don't speak to Russians often, so I was just curious while I had you on the line.
That's okay. Yeah.
So you don't think I'm a feminist for saying that it's a bad deal in 2024? Wow, that's so crazy. I didn't think I'd ever get a girl.
I don't think you. I think you are one of the most traditional women who have been raised with the dad, and this is what I keep saying to women, that having this masculine presence in your life, it's so important for women. And I just feel very frustrated to see a lot of girls being raised by a single mother or by the father who is not, who doesn't have the authority in the family, because it has been taken away from him. So the mother is the one who is in charge. She's taking all of the decisions for the father and for the kids. And the girls just turn out to be very promiscuous women. That men don't actually want. The men that these women want, men don't want them,
Yeah. Well, it was very nice to meet you. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you, Pearl.
Call in anytime, Chica.
Thank you. Take care. You too.
Take care. All right. See, now I just wanted to point out to the women, because I think sometimes you see how she comes in with a smile on her face. She's happy. Even if you're a liberal, okay, even if you're a crazy lady, you can still come in smiling, happy. It's not that hard. So thank you. Give me a little hope. Okay. We'll do maybe one more.
We got 2 guys that can go. They've been waiting for a long time. Maybe. Yeah.
Why? I'm tired. It's like 2 in the morning.
All right. Sorry, one of you guys is gonna.
All right, wait. Bring them on at the same time. Just bring them. We'll go together.
All right.
We'll go together. But if you guys tag team and you go crazy, I'm gonna protest.
I fought for you guys. But don't go crazy.
I do. What up, guys? All right.
Hello. Hey, what's going on, Pearl?
So my question of the day is, am I a feminist for saying that marriage is a bad deal for men in 2024? If yes or no, tell me why. We'll start with the gentleman in the middle. What's your name?
Preston.
Preston. And then what was the other guy's name?
Randall.
Okay, Preston, go ahead. And then Randall, you can go next.
Hey, Pearl, huge fan of the show. No, I don't think that you are a feminist for believing what you believe. What I do think, though, and it's not necessarily criticism, but what I do believe is that the way in which you present the information leads traditional conservatives and others to make inferences that you are. Yeah, it's very, and I think it's more of a modern thing with the younger generations to include, obviously, we're probably in the same generation, but it's very matter of factual. It's very cold. It's very objective. It's very leaving the emotion out of it. And you're entering into an environment with people like Michael Knowles, who their entire emotional presence is tied up in Catholicism, and a part of that is marriage. And so he makes these inferences based upon what he believes and what you believe. And it's like, no, it couldn't be further from the truth.
What do you think?
I don't think you're a feminist. I'm not a fan of feminism. And props to you for your success. Seen some of your YouTube clips and follow you on X. And I just think it's great what you're doing, given that perspective from the female stance. And it's just natural. Men have roles and tendencies, and women, we're both needed. We're both necessary. But so I'm on your side, and I'm really just doing this to say, hey, and this is cool. I can't believe I got selected.
Well, thank you guys for calling in. I appreciate the input.
Thank you, Pearl.
Thank you. All right, fellas. How fun was that? I think we should do call-in shows more. I was hoping to have that chick that wanted to, like, the crazy lady, I was hoping she would talk about the discussion and not her agenda, because I am interested in talking to more people that disagree with me. I think it would be a better show. But it's okay. We'll get those as we go on. But this is going to be the new show format. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I think I might even react to the entire Michael Knowles thing, especially if we get remonetized. That is the first thing I'm going to react to. I'll react to that entire debate from start to finish. It'll be like a quadrillion light year debate. Okay, so next time we are streaming, I'm streaming Monday at the same time, 8 GMT. Is that 3 Eastern, Blessing?
I think so.
Okay.
Let's check. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not versed in American times.
That's 3 Eastern. Guys, now the other criticism that I've gotten time and time again is that Pearl is a feminist. And I think conservatives, I would really caution you. I would very much caution you from overusing that word, because you've already done it and it's not going to work. Men aren't stupid. Men are not stupid. They see what's going on, and you cannot shame men into a bad deal. I don't tell men what to do, as I've said before. I think you guys are grown men. Don't listen to a chick about what to do with your life. I mean, I'm not going to be the one that has to answer to you in divorce court. I'm not going to be the one that, if you're alone at 55, I'm not going to be the one that you have to answer to. Every guy has to decide for himself what's a good idea for him. I think men should think for themselves, not have podcasters at the Daily Wire think for them or have me think for them. Doesn't make sense to me. But, if you guys want to support the show, please send a Venmo or a Cash App. And I think there was one that was sent. Let me look. Was it 3 Eastern, Blessing? Did you look it up?
Oh, I thought you were looking. Okay. Well, hold on.
Okay, let me
That's 4 Eastern.
What?
4 Eastern.
I saw Derek donated $20. So did Justin, $20. Oh, it's 4 Eastern? Oh, I totally thought it wasn't. Oh, wait, here we go. Oh, good job. Randy, good job. Andre Campbell, thank you, Randy. Martin, Josh, Chris, Dylan, Smith. Yeah, so thank you to all of you guys. If you want to donate, the Cash App is in the corner. I wonder if we can make it bigger for next time, Blessing.
Yeah.
It's Cash App PearlyThings and Venmo _PearlyThings. Also, we have a website coming soon where you guys can sign up for our own memberships. We are going to be the only network that has no big donors. Zip. None. So you don't have to worry about if random rich billionaires. Nope. We're going to be completely independent. Yeah, and I don't tell any of my creators what to say, how to think, whatever. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel, ring that notification